mass and hand grenades. Gas mask and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.
Hey, what is happening? YouTube and all internet inhabitants out there. Welcome to Gas Mask and Hand Grenades. I'm your host, Jeff, and we're back. We're back after a short night because we had a long one last night, and I appreciate everybody that tuned in last night. And we're going to try something out today. We're going to try something new. Hamish, you're lucky. You get to be the guinea pig for this. We're going with a catchphrase for the channel, and it is Gas Masks and Hand Grenades, where the metal music melts your mind. Hey, that's courtesy of Tim Saunders, by the way. If that's the saying that goes on the back of the shirt, let me know if you like that, because we're working on those shirts, and that might be the new saying. I kind of dig it a lot. So we'll see what Hamish says when he gets in here. But speaking of Hamish, my guest today is Mr. Hamish Glencross. You might know him better from, let's see, one of his numerous many bands that we're going to talk about today. Perhaps you know him from Solstice, or maybe Vallenfyre, or maybe his long-term gig, My Dying Bride, or perhaps you know him from his most current project with his wife and two other guys, one of which I kind of know. We're going to talk about that guy a little bit. And that band is Godthrymm. So let's bring Mr. Hamish, and I hope I'm saying it right, Glencross. And did I say it right?
You absolutely said it right, Jeff. Thank you so very much.
Yes.
I've had some interesting variations over these last few months of reviews after the last album. There's been a lot of Hamishes and
Hamish and Hamish. Like if you're in America, you think of ham sandwich. It's Hamish. It's not Hamish. But I kind of knew it was Hamish. I've been following you for quite a long while. I just didn't come into the whole scene in the last couple of years. I'm kind of an old dude, so a little bit older than you actually at this point. Although you just had a birthday, right?
Just had a birthday just this last week, and I'm feeling it a little bit.
Just wait till you hit 50, sir. Just wait till you hit 50. It goes all downhill from there.
Coming up far too soon.
I'll be fit. I'm sorry.
I mean, because it's a funny thing. I spent so long being like so much younger.
The younger guy, yeah.
Yeah, hugely so. And that was kind of always the case when I was starting off in bands like things, and even first just like getting into music as well, because Tuds from Paradise Lost lived over the street as well, and knew him through school and stuff like that. And so when I was getting into the music scene was quite young, and so getting in with your folk who were a bit older. Of course, now that we've all got older as well, now
it's all
the same age. Basically.
It's all kind of relative, right? It's I'll be 58. I'll actually be 58 at the end of March, last day of March.
Right.
So I've been around a little bit, a long time, and seen a lot. So yeah, you are not a new entity to me. Godthrymm was not my first experience. Of course, I know about Vallenfyre. Of course, I'm a huge MDB fan. I knew about the name of Solstice before, but I'm going to make an admission to you. I'd never listened to them until last night. And boy, I got some stuff I want to say about that. So we'll talk about that. But before we get too far into the future or into the present, let's go into the past. This is kind of how hang on. Sorry, I just got a phone call. I got to shut that off. You'd think I'd be a pro at this, You'd think after all these. There we go. All right. So let's take a stroll back, Hamish, to when you were a young guy, a young formative child. And I want to ask you what I always ask everyone, because I think it's a really important key functional part of all of us that are musicians or love music, whether we're a fan or we're actually making music or we're just appreciating it. I think it's a really critical thing where we came in on music, what we remember as our first memories, and I always say this, for me, I'm a child of the late 60s, early 70s. So my mom was listening to like James Taylor and Carole King and Simon and Garfunkel. She wasn't doing Sabbath or the Beatles but I heard those bands pretty early in the 70s. So I'm curious where you kind of come in on that spectrum.
So my folks got a wide range of music, and so whilst there was a couple of old vinyls like of Sabbath and Jethro Tull and some things that we might consider more the classic heavier end of the spectrum. There was also an awful lot of like English folk music as well, Pentangles, Steel I Span, Fair Pop Convention, that kind of stuff. And then my mum also was into the Beatles. She was hugely into the Beatles. So and her passion for them and kind of all music just meant it was just surrounded by a whole wealth of things, and their listening habits would weave in and out of stuff as the mood would kind of take. And so the likes of Carole King, like you mentioned there, and stuff, and Simon Garfunkel, absolutely. So music was kind of constant. It was just always there. My dad is a musician as well, and guitarist, which meant that there were guitars in the house. So
nice.
Having guitars available just meant that when I was wanting to kind of emulate some of the songs I was really into, Free, for instance, was a big one. Paul
Kossoff,
his playing, just such soulful, emotive playing, and that side of things really kind of resonated with me. But also at the same time, being a kid then was really quite excited by heavier and stuff as well, and about my dad buying me a couple of records. There was Screaming Blue Murder by Girls School. That was one of the first I had. Motorhead's Little Sisters, but they were
Motorhead's Little Sisters. Right.
Love those. And the absolute phenomenal Assault Attack by Michael Schenker Group as well, which just remains my all-time most favorite albums ever. I mean, the most heroic vocal performance.
I love the first 4 Michael Schenker albums. They're kind of like canon for me. I mean, and so were you? That's a really interesting point. I will say one thing. You're the very first guy I've talked to in 70 some interviews that's brought up Pentangle, Fairport Convention, that English folk stuff, that's kind of canon for a lot of young guys in our age range. You're kind of the younger end of it, but I mean, that was the stuff, right? Renaissance and Renaissance being another.
Absolutely. And my dad taking me when I was quite young, going to like the Cropredy Festival, the Fairport Convention curated thing, and so I was just around, and so many of these songs, a lot of Richard Thompson stuff, it's getting really quite dark at times, and and just there's the whole kind of sounds, the modes used, the musical kind of motifs and stuff. I was just loved, and then I've tried in varying levels of success to try and kind of incorporate the love of that into the heavier spectrum as well. And
sure. Now you're Scottish, correct?
Born in Scotland. So
okay.
I was born in Scotland, but I was only there for a very short period of time.
Okay.
I've got Scottish family history, hence with the name and everything.
Right.
So I was married, wearing a kilt, etc., and all that. But I was born in Dundee, Scotland.
Okay.
But then I moved to York when we were really quite young. So I remember on Cycle of One, my Dying Bride album coming out, for instance, doing an interview with Dundee newspaper. It was kind of like the angle of local musician and new album coming out. And then when I was speaking to them on the phone, they were immediately a little taken aback by the lack of an accent.
Ah, yes.
And it's like, yeah.
Had to apologize for that.
How do we tie this into, you know, a bit of a local scene kind of thing? It's like, no, I actually lived there for a long time. So,
Yeah.
Born in Dundee. But
almost like you had to apologize, right?
a little. I mean, and you know, I love whenever, you know, I get the opportunity to go up to Scotland, and you know, last you know, handful of years been, you know, I played a number of times in Aberdeen and Glasgow, Edinburgh, and stuff like that. And so I always just love being up there. But I've not actually returned to Dundee for far too long. So
Well, I had to ask that because I wanted to know, since you are Scottish by birth, anyways, the big Scottish band is Sensational Alex Harvey Band, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that's like everyone that's at least lived there essentially. But you aren't really a true Scotsman. You are, but you aren't. You're a expat. You're an expat.
But so, I mean, Sensational Alex Harvey Band, for me, it doesn't go kind of too much further than, well, two things. I mean, one is you know, the amazing old, you know, the old TV show, the Old Grey Whistle Test, and you know, the classic responses on there. So, you know, very much kind of used to that, and also Scoot as well. My you know, long-standing dear friend, he was you know, the bass player in Vallenfyre, and is also best man at a wedding as well. And I know his dad absolutely loved Sensational Alex Harvey Band as well. So it's always been present, but they're never you know, someone that I really kind of intently listened to, you know, lots and lots. Unlike some of the other, you know, kind of artists we mentioned just there already, where I'm just like kind of wanting to really study and learn, you know, songs from, as I say, you know, the playing of Kossoff and, you know, Peter Thompson, and they're just looking at then, you know, Bert Jansch. I mean, whoa.
Oh yeah. Of course, the other big Scottish band would be, who am I thinking of?
I'm going to go Big Country here.
Wait, were they Scottish? I thought they were English.
Big Country? Oh, Scottish. Yeah.
Oh, Stuart Adamson, of course, duh.
And,
well, okay, and that's a great band. I love that band, man. I love that band.
Again, really stirring kind of, you know, the work over the top in there, and I love Big Country, but so yeah. But I mean, otherwise, who thinks
Bay City Rollers?
Oh man,
probably preceded you a little bit, just a little bit.
I know they had the Tartan, but were they Scottish?
I thought they were Scottish. I thought
it might be. I don't know. They definitely had the tartan, but
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, but that was that. Thankfully, so growing up musically, there was less of that about.
Let's look it up. I don't want to throw out bad info out there. Scottish pop band. Where were they from? They were from. Does it say where? Looks like, doesn't really say. I'm not in the beginning there. I don't know. If anyone has that info that's watching, let me know. I knew they were Scottish. I was also thinking the Sweet, but I think the Sweet was English. I think they were UK.
It could well have been. Yeah, as far as the more kind of, you know, that whole stomping, sweet,
pop
type kind of stuff goes, then I don't know. Alice Cooper is probably as
big one,
kind of far as I've gotten that side of that stuff. And I love the Alice Cooper band. And again, that was in early listening. A lot of time with early Alice Cooper as a band.
Oh yeah.
Then, you know, loved all that side of things. You know, Desperado and Wheels.
My buddy Nick says been a huge Godthrymm fan since the debut, Hamish. So there you go. Here's a fellow Englishman here, Mr. Mark G with a C. These are all these are all YouTube guys. They're all my buddies from YouTube, and we're going to talk about some of those guys in a minute here. But let's get back to you and your formative years. So you said you had the benefit, which is a cool benefit, of having guitars around the house from Dad. Yeah. And do you remember when you first picked up the instrument? Seriously.
I'm trying to think what led me to do it. So I know after I'd got those first vinyl albums, as I say, like Assault Attack and Paranoid and stuff, was wanting to play, and I'm trying to think what I was. I can't necessarily remember exactly what I was trying to play at first. I certainly remember the guitar that I was playing on, and my dad had a big PV T60 guitar, which was just gigantic.
Yeah.
And, you know the model.
I remember those ones. Yeah, they had that
made thing, just huge
oversized Strat body, like an oversized Strat body, but kind of unwieldy, really large. Yeah, I remember those.
Real big thing. So I remember just like trying to, kind of get my arms around.
Sure.
And then, but then standing up with a strap, hanging the guitar, then it was like really, really heavy as well.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So the first few things I was trying to play. I really remember trying to be. I remember, thinking I'd be really ambitious and trying to learn War Pigs because my dad as well, being into guitar, he would get Guitar World magazine, Guitar Player magazine, Guitarist, which was a UK magazine as well. So a bunch of guitar magazines which would have tabs. Well, and War Pigs was in one, so I thought, oh, brilliant, great, let's have a stab at War Pigs here, and picking up a few bits of it, not necessarily managing at that stage to do the song start to finish, but
sure,
pick up a few key phrases and really into that. In fact,
I was going to say, Hamish,
I don't remember now, but like the whole riff. I remember wanting to learn that particular riff. That was like, for me, that because that's just such a big melodic kind of moment in the song. And so whilst, at the time as well, loving big and heavy, there was real strong love of melody as well.
Right.
And so, I wanted to then do that. And then, one of the most kind of important things also that around that kind of point in time as well was when there's a legendary BBC documentary on heavy metal as well, called the Arena Special, and it's just absolutely there was the BBC had this Arena series documentaries on various things, and I think it was 1989 when was this heavy metal special, and it was just amazing. It was
glorious,
interviewing a whole bunch of people in bands, fans as well, and lots of cool exclusive footage of and then it was like Metallica and Napalm Death, and it was just Slayer as well, and then it was just like wow, and then that was then really quite a bit of a link of them wanting to go into the much heavier end of the spectrum, and knowing, and very much at the same time as well, as I say, like with knowing Tuds and Paradise Lost starting off at that point, and then getting stuff off him. And
can I interject for a sec there? Who are you referring to? Because I don't know the nickname.
Oh, sorry, Tuds, Matthew Archer.
Okay, Archer. Okay, all right. Because I'm like, wait, I don't know that. I know the guy is in Paradise, but I was like, who's that dude? I don't know what that is. So okay, gotcha. Was he a little? He's a little bit older than you. He's a little older.
So he's a bit older, and so he'd been at the same school as me, but older and
a couple years above, right?
And there was a like an acting out of hours school as well, like amateur dramatics and stuff like that, and he did.
Yeah, you actually did some TV. I was like shocked when I read that. I'm like, wait, what? So before we get there, let me finish up with the guitar thoughts. So in and around, you're not sure, but 10 or 11, you're picking up the instrument, or was it a little bit before that?
Certainly as in being able to play something that was recognizable, then yeah, it's going to be 10 or 11, definitely.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Any time before that was just picking it up and just wanting to hold it,
banging on it or pretending a little bit, right?
Look like holding a guitar. But 10, 11 was when at that point and then my dad was saying to me that you should have some classical lessons at this point, and
okay,
because he thought it was really, really important to say that, when you're learning, it's really, really easy to go down a route of just, going by ear and just figuring stuff out. But he thought it was quite important that if I had a bit of an understanding of theory, musical theory and stuff like that from the outset, then he thought it'd be easier to learn it at that point than where he said then, he was then trying to learn it later on.
Yeah.
And thought getting
He's completely right about that. He's completely right about that, because I've tried as an older man to learn it, and I'm stupid. I just don't get music. I just don't get reading music. I can look at the notes on the staff and be like, oh, okay, that's an F, but where do I play it? I mean, I don't that's for me. So I was more of an ear guy. I picked up the guitar. I got my first guitar at 8, an acoustic.
Yeah.
And I stood in front of the mirror pretending I was Paul Stanley all day, every day. That was my dream, was to be awesome. Paul Stanley, because Kiss was the band that was the gateway to the heavier stuff. Then it was Rush. It was Triumph. It was all those late 70s bands. Yes. Steve Howe, things, Prague, all that kind of stuff. So, and by the time I got to being serious about the guitar at like 15, it was already too late. My kid reads music and has tried to teach me. I'm just like dumb. It's like trying to learn Japanese now for me or something. I'm like, I don't get it. I know what I'm doing. Don't. Oh, are you there?
And those early lessons. Oh yeah.
Okay, go ahead. You froze for a sec. Go ahead.
Are we good?
Yep, we're good.
Oh no, okay. But yeah, so those early lessons. You hear me okay?
Yeah, it was locking up there. Yeah, we were good. Hold on one sec. Just talk for a minute.
Sure.
There we go. You're better now. It was locked up in that spot. So go ahead.
Okay, so moved ever so slightly. Cool. But yeah, so those early lessons, even then, reading music certainly felt like a chore, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and but it was as much as well just learning, how to take a bit of a disciplined approach to the guitar as well. When really, of course, I still very much felt that, it's like getting out of the lesson, still just wanted to just bash some chords and kind of make some noise. But I did, from that kind of point in time, it was a good starting point to then know that, right, go off in, and then really start to learn. The main thing I learned by was playing with people as soon as possible. First opportunity to actually jam with other players, and then ultimately that then kind of ended up being playing with more experienced players, in terms of a bit older. So for a good long while I was pretending to be older. So but fortunately at that point, when playing in first bands and stuff, I already had long hair, which was quite unusual. Certainly at my school and stuff at that time. So I was there, jamming with some guys who were only a little bit older, like kind of 18 years and stuff like that. But I was like 13, 14 when I was first like doing a first gig, stuff like that. So
I'm sure your parents were
just a
little leery of that, huh?
They were kind of okay. They came to a couple things because they knew that it was, because I was music, they were kind of okay with it. It wasn't so much that it was just going to these places just to drink alcohol and stuff like
Right.
that. Came with it later on, so they would come and see those first kind of shows, and then from that, just kind of built on that. When I was about 15 and 16, then they weren't coming and seeing me playing live, and I could trust circles I was keeping, and that was out playing music, and so
Right.
and then I just kind of went on from there, really. So just until then, at one point, one band that I just joined, and I'd told them I wasn't trying to push it. I think I told them I was 17, but in this band there was two brothers, and they had a younger sister who was at the same school as me, but she was like in a year above. So then guys and said, okay, right, how old are you really? And I was like, oh, okay.
They figured you out.
Yeah. So yeah.
Now, were you using one of your dad's guitars at this point, or did they get you your own guitar? Okay.
So I did. I used to borrow one of my dad's guitars quite a lot, because as much as then I did get a guitar to be, well, actually the very first instrument of my own I got was a bass guitar, and then ended up selling that and trading up, and then so ended up trying to kind of work my way up the quality of guitars by like buying and selling or trading instruments, and did that a little bit. And so I went through a few different guitars quite earlier on, but yeah, my dad always had a real quality instrument I could borrow, so
that's kind of nice, right? That's kind of nice.
That was cool. That was good.
What guitars did he have? Do you remember?
Oh, it's a Fender Telecaster. He's still got it, but it's
nice.
It's one with humbuckers. It's a very thin line Telecaster, beautiful guitar, and it sounds great as well. And yeah, he's still got it, and I've played it on a couple of albums in the past. It's I played it on one of the tracks on Dreadful Hours album, for instance, as well. So
nice.
I've used it on a few bits and pieces over time. It's great.
That's very cool. My father's a trumpet player, but my parents split up. Thankfully, I know the people shouldn't say that, but thankfully they split up early. And my stepdad was a guitar player. Well, he was just a strummer, Puff the Magic Dragon and that kind of stuff, like Peter, Paul and Mary, stuff like that, American folk. And now you froze again, like solid. Are you there?
Mm-hmm.
Man, you froze. Your internet signal's pretty rough. Is there a place in the house that you can go that maybe is a little better, or no? Because you are completely frozen. Okay, now you're moving.
Oh no. All right, okay.
Yeah, you're moving now. We may have to fight this a little bit. We'll have to see. There's a little bit of an overlap. So like I'm trying not to interject and overcut you so we don't talk over each other, but there's definitely some internet slowness here. So we'll just work through it. But yeah, my dad was the trumpet player. My stepdad was the guitar player. And I'll never forget, I used to sneak in their closet and pull that old Nagoya. It was a Nagoya Japanese Martin knockoff. And I used to take that thing out and tinkle around on a little bit. And finally, they got me a Stella and then a Lark, and then it became an Alvarez. And it just kind of, you know how you did. You just move through the paces and you get a little bit better each time. And then you get, what you got back here, that kind of stuff. So, so in high school, you're already playing with older dudes now. Are you actually playing in like an actual real band, or are they more just jams at that point?
So high school. So first, was a band called Servitude. Was like the first band where then I was like playing in like proper venue, and but then it didn't last too long. There was a band called Under Threat for a while, and we played quite a lot of pubs and things. Then I was about 16 when I was in Driftwood. Sears. It all happened quite quickly. I went through quite a few bands quite quickly, it would appear. So, because then Sears Tear was like the cross between kind of doom and some prog influences, and so I first was recording with them in '94. So, and then I did a couple of demos with them, like in '94 and '95, and then I joined Solstice at was like '96, I think, when I was first playing with them, and so all of this is still, it's still very much, well, I mean, apart from Solstice, which is very much kind of, college age at that point, it was,
right.
School.
Wow.
So much
wow, man. Wow. And you actually did gigs with some of these bands? Like, okay, so Sears Tear was no kid, like out at a pub or those type of gigs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So I mean, so Sears Tear did. We recorded a couple of demos at a couple of different studios, Bradford Way, and then we were playing pubs and small venues and things like that. And so that was, well, even the band before we recorded a demo and did quite a few gigs and things, and so it was kind of slightly, playing outside of just the hometown kind of thing. And
okay,
so then it was,
and that was Driftwood. Was that Driftwood?
Yeah, that was Driftwood.
Okay, so that was like your first that was kind of like your first real band where you got recording experience, where you went into a studio.
Yeah, went to a proper studio and playing, proper gigs where people would be. Well, there'd be a couple of people there.
I was going to say they'd actually pay to get in, right? They'd actually pay to get in.
And we'd play in other cities and not going far away. It was more than just like within the neighboring town or city. We would do a couple of things.
Okay.
Like just like a couple of hours drive or something like that.
Right.
So,
and your parents were very supportive of this progression as far as not going away to school or getting a proper job. You know what I mean? The proper job talk, that kind of thing.
All the time through, they were really supportive of the music, but they were then, saying that, I really needed to have something to kind of fall back on as well.
Right.
So, very keen that I did that. So, certainly in those days, it all seemed well, as long as I was, going to school, doing decent work and playing as well, that was kind of all okay. And so, they were supportive enough at that point. And then just a bit more involved, certainly, as then in, with Solstice from like kind of '96. And so from that point was then where, I started doing a bit more. But so at that
let
point,
me ask
of course,
you,
I was like,
Now go ahead, because we do have a pretty bad lag. I'm trying to let you finish. Go ahead and finish.
Oh, sure. No. And then just saying, because then
we keep battling the old internet signal here thing. Tell you what, Hamish, let's try something. Are you hearing me? Hamish, let's try something here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick you out,
and
I want you to use the link and come back in again. We'll see if that resolves it. Oftentimes that does work. So I'm gonna actually boot you out of the studio.
Okay.
You go all the way out. Go all the way out to and start over in Chrome and paste that link in and come back in.
Okay, cool.
We'll give that a shot. We'll see if that works. All right.
Cool.
All right. So we're having, as those of you that are watching can tell, we're having some internet stress, which is pissing me off. Not Hamish's problem. But by the way, while we're waiting for Hamish to come back on, last night I did the Collector Scum update, and at the end we were kind of brainstorming some catchphrases for the channel to put on the back of the new T-shirt that's coming in the next week or so, or maybe this week. And we rolled that out at the beginning of this one tonight. We'll see how that goes. All right, Hamish is back, I think. There he is. All right, he's back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, and your voice is synced. So we'll cross our fingers now and hope things stay that way for a little bit. I don't know what it is. Sometimes it gets a weird cell or bandwidth and it starts stumbling on itself. So I was starting to hear you were getting further away as I would start to talk. It'd be a longer lag, and I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna really be, this is gonna be a clusterfuck. So all right, so we were at I wanted to ask you what your first concert was that you went to.
The first one I went to.
Yeah.
So there was two very close together. Oh God, wait. I'm trying to think now. Because my first like rock and metal concert, there was two that was very close together, which was Saxon at the Civic Theatre in Halifax, supported by Excalibur from Bradford.
Oh yeah, I remember them.
Yeah. Really cool. And but there was also Alice Cooper on his Alice Trashes the World tour as well.
Okay.
Birmingham NEC, and I'm not sure which of those was first, but
now was there anything prior to that as far as like, you know, like my first show was actually Kiss, so that was 1979. Nice. And then Rush was second, which is pretty good pairing there, but I didn't have like a thing where my dad took me to see like Chuck Mangione or something like that. You know, I didn't have that happen. So thankfully I started out pretty up there a little bit. But I will tell you, and I've told this story, it was on the Dynasty tour, and the show before Priest was opening for Hellbent for Leather, and they dipped out of the tour the city before me. I was in Houston at the time, and they played Dallas, and 2 nights later I got just an evening with Kiss, no Priest. So
that's a shit.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, I actually trying to think what. I mentioned earlier Cropredy Festival. I think that was before when my dad took to Cropredy, which is a Fairport Convention festival. It's like lots of old musicians who have been associated with Fairport Convention in different ways over time. So it's like Danny Thompson, the bass player, he was comparing throughout it, and then there was lots of guest musicians, right?
Sure.
Throughout. So actually, I think that may have been.
Oh, that's cool.
So these were all quite in a close, similar amount of time. I would have been about 10. Yeah, about.
This is late 80s. Late 80s.
Yeah. Because the let me think. Alice Trashes the World Tour would have been about 18.
Trash. It was for the Trash tour, right?
Yeah. So I think that's probably about 89.
Yeah, let's see here.
So then, Cropredy was probably about the same.
Yeah, it was 89. It was 89. You're right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I think it was. So I think it was very much 89 when I first started going to gigs, and
that's cool.
So Saxon would have been about the same time as well. So, and there were lots of incredible gigs that were going on around at the time, because it was amazing. Like, Bradford is very close to Halifax where I live, and and that had amazing gigs, amazing bands go through there. And
what's the venue there? What's the venue?
So there's St. George's Hall, for instance, and I saw Gary Moore there, David Lee as well,
Gary
and
Moore.
I didn't see Kiss there, but I've got friends of mine who did see Kiss there, and then Queen's Hall's been mentioned as well, and then of course the Queen's Hall, also in Bradford, different venue, had loads of amazing bands going through there. I mean, I wasn't at the night when Pearl Jam played there, just when 10 was breaking, but
oh wow.
But then, if there were the amount of people who said that they were there that night, then
of course
the venue would have to have been about 5 times.
Right. It's always that way, right? There were 9 million people there. You mentioned Sears Tier was kind of a semi-prog sort of thing. I was curious, are there prog bands at that time you're kind of getting into from the 80s and not, like, are you going back and listening to Rush? Are you going back and listening to Genesis and Yes and Crimson? And
see, as much as they had pretensions of being prog influenced, to my kind, and I know that a couple of guys in them, they really loved the deep classics of that kind of prog, but in truth, to my ears, it was a lot more influence from prog in the sense of what Fate's Warning were doing at that point in time, and
my favorite bands.
Oh,
one of my favorite bands of all time, man.
And Inside Out is just such a beautiful album, and that was and it was at that point in time. Inside Out would have been the current album for them at that point in time. So it was that kind of technical metal side of things rather than what gets what should really be known as a lot of prog as well, and also very much Psychotic Waltz as well. Hugely so. And so having some much more stuttered time signatures and kind of turn on a sixpence kind of dynamics and things, and and then the the incredible harmonized lead guitar work as well. So so much as kind of described as prog, it was certainly a very metal interpretation of
Okay, gotcha.
Even then, because it was kind of grounded in a bit of a doom thing, because the singer, he used to sing for Solstice, a demo era Solstice beforehand as well, so it was a bit detuned, just slightly slower stuff. So it was it's a little more recognizable on that side of the spectrum. In fact, I just clocked that because this year it's 30 years since we did that first demo with CST. I'm going to record just in a home studio, just a little video for like the YouTube channel. I'm just playing along with one of the songs from that demo, because that'd be like fun just to kind of revisit.
Do you have like the old cassettes, or do you have actual DAT, or what do you have?
So just digital version of the old cassettes.
Okay. So,
So I'll load it up into a session and then just kind of play along live with it, because that'd just be kind of fun just to see how much I remember, because it's kind of weird. I tend to remember songs quite well. I could still probably, if I could still probably do a set with pretty much most of the bands that I've ever played in. So I could.
Nice. And you played on a lot of albums and a lot of songs and written a lot of songs. So that's saying something. I'm bad at that. I'm terrible.
Well, it's a funny, mind you, what's probably weird is that there's actually, I could probably remember the older stuff a lot easier than some of the more recent stuff. I mean, there were some Vallenfyre songs actually that I probably would have no idea how they go.
Right. You'd have to woodshed a lot,
But then even at times, because Greg was a very prolific writer as well, they'd be going into the studio not having played the songs before, and would just like kind of the morning of recording it, just make sure I was up to speed with it, then record it, and then because there were then so many songs in the end, there was stuff that we never played live. There was stuff that was never going to get played live, and so it was almost like
right.
Kind of marked the files in my head already, like saying, kind of use once and delete. So
yeah, right, exactly. Now, Solstice, was that the first band that you actually issued real material, that was your first recorded thing that you had a CD come out of or an album come out of? Okay.
Yeah, played on the New Dark Age album, which
is a very cool album, man. I gotta say, there is some wicked killer guitar on that album, man. I had never listened to it until yesterday. I knew about it, but I hadn't listened to it. Man, there's some creative, good riffs on there, man. Really good riffs.
That's some interesting stuff, and it was a bit of an interesting mix. It's at times kind of identifies itself as kind of doom, but really it's just heavy metal. Really, it's just heavy metal.
It's got a really good touch of what I would call traditional sort of metal. It's got a little bit of doom, but it's a lot of just good traditional metal with good riffs, a lot of melody, a lot of harmonized runs on it.
Yeah. Twin harmony melody lines and stuff, and some fun guitar solos. I had some fun solos on the album. And
did you write a lot of that material, or help write it, or what?
I helped write some, bring in, so brought in a few harmony pieces and a couple of riffs here and there. But Chaz, the bass player, wrote a few riffs, and of course Richard, been writing riffs for it. But my main contribution to that album is obviously all the acoustic work that's on the album. I did all of that, and also the guitar solos. The twin lead, the twin harmony kind of stuff, that was two together, but the actual kind of guitar solos, that was then my main thing on there.
And how old were you there? Like 19, 20-ish?
Yeah. So was rehearsing and recording 97 to 90. So 1920. Yeah, and then 20 years old when it came out. Yeah.
And how did they come by you, or how did that happen? Do you remember how that story happened?
So that'd be via the Sears Tear singer, because he was vocalist for Solstice on the
first
demo.
album.
Yeah. Oh no, not first album.
The demo.
Or the first album.
Okay.
So so we would play gigs with Solstice, and so I kind of made friends with them. And then as Sears Tear wanted to, be a bit more prog, as their leanings and interest was, I wanted to go, more doom metal, really. And so each time kind of move from one band to another. At times it's been very much to satisfy a need to do something just different. And Sears Tear, I remember the final thing was for me, Simon, the other guitarist, he'd written a song that I thought was brilliant. It was really good. It's just some really good quality riffs in it. And but then in the rehearsal room, and then the guys were then just trying to figure out how to make it more complicated and just kind of busy it up a bit. And was like, I'm not as much into that now. These were good strong riffs, and they weren't even my riffs. It was
right
written them. And I was like, that should just be big riffs, and so that's what I wanted. And so very happily parted with those guys, and then went on to the next bit with Solstice to do again, just have more just big riffs. So
my buddy Eric here, who he and I are doing we're wrapping up our 3-part, seems like it's been going on for months and months, because it has. We're wrapping up our 3-part Jethro Tull series. We're doing all the We're doing all the bonus tracks on these crazy reissues that you want to talk about a songwriting machine. Ian Anderson, I don't know if anyone has written more songs than Ian Anderson on the face of the earth. That dude, and all of them are good. That's the thing that's fucking weird about it. It's like every song, all the B-side things that you think are been, go in the dustbin. The dude writes these incredible songs. You're like, any one of these could have been on these incredible albums. Anyways, Eric and I are doing that. But he says up here, slightly embarrassed to admit that I've never heard any Godthrymm or Vallenfyre, but I'm a huge MDB fan. Should I kick him out now, Hamish?
No, this is cool.
No?
Because I mean, it's the kind of funny situation. It was weird that at the time of even doing Vallenfyre, would meet people at shows who would say that they didn't know about the band, and we were playing at one festival, and when a couple of people came up and asking, "Oh, could we grab a picture?" and they asked me legit, like, "Oh, well, why are you here?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm playing with Vallenfyre." And they were like, "Vallenfyre, don't know about them." I'm like, all right, well, Greg from Paradise Lost and me and Adrian from At the Gates at this point, and they were like, "Oh no, didn't know about it." So it's
I knew about it. Yeah, when I of course knew about it way back when the first album came out. But I was kind of kidding about throwing Eric out. He knows I'm just goofing on him here a little bit. He's my buddy. But so the Solstice thing happens. You do that. Did you actually do any real touring outside of the local area or outside of England?
No, just over to just Ireland and Northern Ireland, so nothing too far. I mean, we did the New Dark Age album. It came out. We did a bunch of UK shows about it, which very poorly attended at that point, and it's kind of amusing now, because at that point in time when we were doing it, it was very hard to get any kind of interest, and we were doing those shows with Warning were supporting us as well, and Pat had some great stuff back then, and continues to make some amazing stuff now with 40 Watt Sun, absolutely. But back then we'd be doing those shows, and to very few people. So it was a bit of a hard slog, but I was part of it. Just back of the van, squeezed in with his gear, playing a few shows, and but it was hard graft, and then that when MDB needed a guitarist, then wonderful opportunity to.
Talk us through. Before we do that, though, Wade has a question about the former singer Morris. Do you have any info on him?
So we saw Morris actually very recently. Godthrymm played a show in Halifax, just the last show of the year, a nice intimate new venue in Halifax, and that was great. And a bunch of old friends were there as well, including Tuds, Matthew Archer,
awesome.
Lost. He was there, and also Morris came as well. So
very cool.
Morris was there with his wife. So that was great. It's been the first time we'd seen him for only a small number of years, because last seeing him when me and Catherine got married, he came to that as well. So
nice.
So we saw him then, and I even got then someone wanted to take a photo of me, Sean, and Morris, because we spent a lot of time together back then, and the three of us were in the band together for a period back then, and I don't think he's actively involved in making any music now. He was doing a band with Chaz, who was the bass player on New Dark Age. He was with Solstice for a good long while, but then Chaz was playing guitar and the band Fireblade, and Morris was doing vocals for that, and that was a lot more of a kind of a blackened thrash kind of sound, but it was funny. But straight away with like the kind of the notes and some of the harmony choices, you could just hear that. Yeah, you could hear how much Chaz had contributed to that sound on You Dark Age.
Okay.
So it's an interesting mixture of let's say this kind of blackened thrash metal, but with this particular kind of harmony sound in it. But so since that band, I think they're largely inactive now. I don't know if they're still going to do any more of that, but yeah, that was the last thing he was doing musically. But yeah, so we did see him recently, and it was
cool.
It was great. It was great
awesome.
to see him. So that was fun.
So tell us then how the MDB opportunity arises then. Did you know those guys prior to? Had you gigged around them and they knew of you that way, or?
So the history with them had been my first introduction to My Dying Bride was through an old girlfriend of mine, because her dad worked with one of the members of the band and had been given a cassette of the demo Towards the Sinister, and I'd been given him to give to his daughter because she was into music, but of course she was much more into kind of Cinderella and stuff like that. So so gave me the cassette and yeah, listen to that, just like, whoa, that's just eerie, just really heavy, but just so atmospheric. Symphonaire, the way it sounds on the demo was just like, oh my god, that's incredible. So that was my very first introduction to them, and then kind of missed the first album really, and then Turn Loose was like, wow, that was really quite arresting and different, and just really ambitious and interesting. Sure. And then heard Cry of Mankind, and around that point in time, me, Sean, the drummer in Godthrymm, who
Sean Steele, right,
yeah. So he was drumming in Solstice around that, the time when we first met, and we were just kind of really into had a really good scene, local tours, and we were just like kind of into being like kind of dressed up to the nines, like 3/4 length black coats and white shirts and a very Martin Kane kind of
just the very definition of doom goth, right? Godthrymm. That now I did want to interject one thing though. Your friend Sean, who played with you, I believe, in MDB, right? He also played in Anathema on one album, didn't he?
He did, yes. So,
and I'm trying to remember which album that was. Was it Alt?
Yeah.
It was. Okay, I'm testing my old memory there. It's still there a little bit.
So around that kind of point in time, Andy from MDB would sometimes come over to Halifax as well, and join us for a night of just kind of drinks, hanging out, and he said it was a bit of an infectious kind of scene where it would be all just it was a bit pretentious, bit fun, but a bit
that's metal, right? That's metal. Why not?
It's metal. And so Sean left Solstice, joined Anathema for the Alternative 4 album, and then he'd then split with them and joined My Dying Bride for the Light at the End of the World album. And so then, as he was already in them, and I'd known Andy a bit, met him a few times in the past, and always been friendly, and likewise Aaron as well. They need a guitarist, so he'd suggested me. Andy came and saw a Solstice gig in Bradford, and then rang up and then just asked if I wanted to go and do the tour with them. Just
So he didn't even audition you. He didn't even audition you. Your live show was the audition.
Yeah, he'd seen that, so he knew
Nice.
that it could, would be perfectly happy. He knew I could, play and how it looked and how it was on stage, and was, quite confident enough with that. So they just said, yeah, if I want to, come and rehearse with them to do a tour. And of course, I was more interested in, a bit more kind of longer term relationship.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, absolutely. Because of course, at this point in time, I'm still, this is 99, so I'm like 21 years old and very, quite confident, young band. And so it's like, yeah, I'll learn the songs really quickly, and we'll practice, and it'll go really, really good, and then we'll get, jamming some new music together was my plan, with the idea that get in straight away and just make myself very comfortable and try and get us working together straight away. And
right.
That's really what happened. So we rehearsed, and that went very, very well. And then very early on into that, we wrote the first version of a song called "Cruel Taste of Winter," as it would become, that turned up on the Dreadful Hours album. And, and it just, because it just seemed very natural and just very comfortable. And so did the shows for the Like the End of the World album, and we just carried on writing together. And so I was really wanting to just come in quite strong of wanting to be involved. And so, yeah, but bringing in riffs and ideas for arrangements and stuff like that. So it just was a great start, really.
I mean, at that point now, so Sean's in the band. I'm trying to remember who else was in the band at that point in time. It was Aaron, of course, Andrew. Yeah. Who was on bass?
Adrian on bass.
Adrian was on bass. Okay.
Yeah.
And then did they have the violin player then, or no? Was that
no? So the original plan was going to be, so when I first started rehearsing in it was rehearsals were to back end of 99. The plan at that point was that then would get Martin to just be playing live at that point, doing keys and violin. So my first appearance in any way, shape, or form was in Kerrang magazine. And
oh, nice, yeah.
Photo shoot for Kerrang magazine, interview after the Like the End of the World album came out, and at that point there was the photograph of and it was 5 of us at that point, with Andy, Aaron, Aid, Sean, and myself, and then the lineup, as the article described, was then and then with Martin as well, but that didn't come to be, because of course he was in Cradle at that point and very busy.
Oh, right.
So then, even though I'd only just come in as the brand shiny new member, then it was a case of then find a keyboard player straight away. So it wasn't long of myself being the newest member, because we needed to get someone to play keys. So
right,
got so did some rehearsals with Johnny Maudling from Balsagoth. He'd played on Like the End of the World album. He did a couple of rehearsals, but then we also rehearsed with Yasmin, who had played keyboards in a band called Ebony Lake as well.
Right.
And she was a lot more local, and it would just a lot of kind of factors of terms of like kind of not just kind of much convenience for rehearsals and things like that. Then she, carried on.
You replaced Robert Shawcross, right?
Calvin Robert Shaw.
Okay. And then he go to did he go to Cradle?
Oh no, Martin Powell, Martin, who did keyboards and violin, he went to Cradle, doing just keys, and then
Okay.
Calvin had he played on one song on like the End of the World album as almost like a bit of a kind of a guest thing, but Andy had done all the guitars on the album, and then I came in usually to be playing second guitar parts live, but then just wanted to
Cradle's a band I don't know a lot about. I've struggled with Danny's vocals. It's not my thing. So the MDB boys were pretty local to you then, right? Okay.
Very nearby, and they're just like in at that time just Bradford and Dewsbury. All these all these are really quite close together. The scene is quite a strong scene. It was strange how it was such a long time. Didn't kind of really think too much about like, oh wow, this is an amazing scene that for these kind of small northern towns and cities here. It's like a really cool scene because it was just the reality of the.
When you're in it, you don't really know it's happening. It's just kind of happening and unrolling. And it's only when you look back 15 years beyond it and you go, oh shit, I was part of that you're like, oh, that was pretty freaking cool. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's a neat thing. I'm sure like James and Lars, in 1988 or not 88, but maybe like 95 or something. They weren't going, oh, it was so cool to do Kill 'Em All and start this, revolution in music. They just weren't thinking that stuff, or, you know what I mean? You're in it, you're moving forward, and I think a lot of people forget, like guys like me and guys like us in the chat that really appreciate what you guys do, whether we are gigging musicians or whether we're bedroom guys like I am or whatever. We forget that this, to some extent, it's a job for you guys, and it's a creative job, okay? But you're in this kind of rocket ship that you're moving forward in, and you don't have a lot of time to look back and go, oh, wasn't that really cool what I just did there? That kind of stuff,
No, I mean, because that side of it, I mean, that's got the passion behind wanting to do it and wanting to create. But what was what seems incredible to me now was even less about our own music and what the bands were doing, but just how we were in a point in time when there were so many live venues, so many places to play.
Yeah.
So many great bands were coming through. I mean, Bradford Rios was, these like, so from where, I was living, if you were to, get a taxi, it'd be like, 40 minutes or something like that. And, incredible bands were, going through there. A number of times I saw, Morbid Angel and Entombed and, Immortal and even Emperor and
sure,
it was just everyone coming through there. It was just amazing. But now, so I mean, the thing now when looking back that you realize at the time is that how strong it was in so many places for bands of varying different levels to play. Well, essentially, fairly small area in north of England, which was amazing. So like now, I mean, back at a much more grassroots kind of level, there's creating new music that people don't know, and without all history behind us and stuff, and then trying to build something up. It's very different out there. There's a lot less places to play. The music landscape is very different for live music.
Sure. So. Yeah, and I think too an interesting point, maybe, I don't know if I'm sure you've thought about it, because as a touring musician, you've been in the States, right? A couple times?
Yeah. So only once with My Dying Bride when we played Maryland Death Fest.
2013, I think that was. 2013, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also with Vallenfyre, been out a fair bit. Was out for a Decibel New York show and did the full Decibel tour as well.
Oh, that's right. Was that the one with Carcass?
No, that was with At the Gates, Converge, and Paul Bearer.
Okay, I must have missed that one. What I was going to say was though the interesting thing, maybe the juxtaposition between the UK and the United States is, and you're well aware of this, I believe, probably having come over here, is that we have a massive landmass. It's just humongous, and so there can be a New York scene that's almost divorced from an LA scene, that's divorced from a Tampa scene, which is divorced from a Soundgarden. I was going to say Soundgarden, a Seattle scene. And you know what I mean? There's not maybe a Chicago scene. You don't get a lot of, you know what I mean? It's not like the UK where you guys are fairly close together. And yeah, I know there's the London and the Birmingham but there is a lot of overlap and all about each other. Whereas you don't in the States so much.
It was incredible when first truly appreciating exactly the sheer scale and size of the States was just like wow.
Right.
Flying flying to New York from London and then having a longer flight from JFK to LAX.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Or you get on a tour bus and you're going from Denver to Kansas City or Denver to Chicago, and it's like, holy fuck, we're going to be in this bus forever. That kind of thing, right?
When you're counting distance by hours, not miles, then
exactly.
that there's a vastness going on here,
Yeah.
and I find that incredible. And I say at times over here, it's kind of strange that when English people and stuff, they think of America and the States, and it's amazing how little of the States they're actually thinking about when they are doing it, and it's very much what they kind of know as the States is very much kind of just really coasts, really.
It pretty much is. You're right, exactly.
And it's like really, just the sheer vastness over there. It's just incredible.
So you were with MDB. I'm trying to find. Damn it, there it is, right there. I do have to cheat a little bit because I'm an old man here. So you were with MDB from the Dreadful Hour until Map of All Our Failures, right?
Yeah.
And I know that Andrew still was the primary writer a lot of the time, but you did start to write more and more as each album went along, right?
So there was always stuff there. I mean, he very much primary songwriter, but from Dreadful Hours, there's riffs in from the very first song, Dreadful Hours, itself, the heavier up-tempo riffs, I was bringing that into the band, and Raven and the Rose, loads of stuff in there. So there was stuff coming in on from there, and then it was a wonderful working relationship, but simultaneously challenging at times, because then, as I say, coming in as being a fairly cocky musician, wanting to come in and into an established band with a wonderful body of work already, and want to come in and go, right, I've got something I want to do.
Right.
Listen to this, guys. And but yeah, I had ideas that would be welcome. Other times, and be like, okay, that doesn't really fit the history and the tone of the band. So sometimes the song would be much more Andy's. Sometimes would be an absolute collaboration, and on some rare occasion, be something that'd be from myself in the first instance. So we did different variations. It'd be a song like there's like Catherine Blake, for instance, off Songs of Darkness. That is an absolute 50-50 kind of the split of a song as far as the riffs going into that go. but then then and I think that's one of the most successful songs we wrote together. Thought it was amazing. But other times, something like the Bargist of Whitby, but that's a different story all in itself as well. That very much started from me front end doing something just kind of really ugly and just a bit kind of reactive, and then got built on from.
Yeah, that's the 20-25 minute track, right? The EP, right? Yeah. Do you have so yeah, I forgot to mention that because I mentioned you were on Dreadful Hours, Songs of Darkness, Words of Light, A Line of Deathless, hard word for me to say, A Line of Deathless Kings, which I'm going to be honest with you, that is my favorite MDB album. And I started before that, but I just love that album. There's something really magical about that album for me. I don't know why, even though I started with I believe I started with Turn Loose the Swans, which I probably is my second favorite, but I mean, I like them all. I'm even the weird guy that kind of likes 34%. I don't even mind that so much because I like techno and industrial weirdness. So, but you're there through A Map of All Failures, but you also had what else did you have in there? You had an Ode to Woe, the live album. Bring Me Victory EP, the Bargist of Whitby, the Manuscript, and the Vaulted Shadows compilation. So you've got a very large imprint on as a writer, as a performer, as a touring member with the band. Do you have a favorite of your material? You can't pick the early stuff or the later stuff. What's your favorite of your era?
I think it's different things for different reasons. I think the Bargist of Whitby is a wonderful standalone piece of work where we just went off and did something completely different. Because we'd started writing and demoing up lots of really cool ideas for what would ultimately become Map of All Our Failures. And then I'd got really quite sick after a show in Estonia, it was, and I'd playing this outdoor show that was in between. It was a very beautiful setting, but it was in between this like kind of still water lake and some like kind of foresty woodland. Very beautiful, and Estonia is very, very beautiful as well. But whilst we're playing, I felt being repeatedly being bitten through my jeans. I was being bitten by some flying insects, most likely horseflies.
Oh shit!
Going through my jeans and being bitten repeatedly, and then afterwards, when I came back home, my leg really just like exploded as far as like the big ugly looking welts in my skin, and my leg was swollen, and was feeling really quite sick, and then ended up having to take some quite heavy duty antibiotics, and then some other tablets because of the strength of the antibiotics or something, and for my stomach.
Wow.
Painkillers too. So I was on some steroids as well because of the inflammation and breathing. So it was unpleasant. It really was.
That's scary, man. That's a little scary. Did they know what it was? Was it an infection or what?
So it was a series of bites from probably some likely Estonian horsefly that then became infected.
Okay. Damn. What year is this?
They were getting quite nasty. That was oh gosh, let me think. I'd have to double check what year Bargist of Whitby was.
09.
For that.
09.
09.
2009.
So it'd be like 08, 09, around then. And so then I was at home feeling sick and wretched, and but had home recording set up and just feeling horrible, just started just writing some, just jamming out some really ugly riffing,
Right.
just real chromatic, nasty kind of.
Right.
And then start recording it, and then a little bit more. And so it was really different to the other material that we were writing for Map of All Our Failures. And then I just kind of loved how then playing it to Andy and thought, oh, right, okay, well, let's put the album on hold for the moment and let's just do this. And so we just then started just contributing more to this song, adding more riffs into it, to the point where, as you say, it ended up being, like 27 minutes long, because it was just a total epic. Very different guitar sound, very different production, just real, just different. And at a time when Aaron was doing mostly clean vocals and everything and loving, that, then having something that would get just really harsh vocals, and it just really felt like we were just having a bit of a departure. Like there was something we had to get out of our system.
Right.
There was like some demon that needed exercise.
Yeah, I do remember that, because I remember, you're right, there for quite a long while, Aaron really didn't do any death vocals. It was many albums where he barely did anything. If he did, it was more sort of it was not what he did on the very early albums. And
when we'd be trying to encourage him to put some death metal vocals onto something, but yeah, you've got to do what's right for yourself and true to vision. But we would make suggestions, and he would try out at times. But with Bargist, it was just absolutely right. Just that it was the right thing to do was just spitting it out,
right,
and hate. And so,
you're making me want to go listen to it now, because I'm trying to remember it, and that's one I got to go pull out after we get done with this. So
I love that song. So that, because it was uniquely different, and then also once we did it, then once we'd done it, we'd walked that dog then, and then we'd go back to doing the album properly. And,
right. Mm-hmm.
Which is cool. And then a lot of nice ideas and things in there. So that, but also like yourself, I love Line of Deathless Kings massively, and as well because it felt like a very, very positive time as well. Lots of we're doing lots of really cool things, and we were very fortunate that we got to do some real bucket list kind of shows and things, and so it was a great time. I think some wonderful.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Go into a little more detail.
So being able to play with Metallica, for instance, in Athens.
Yeah.
So doing that, it was just amazing. Playing Castle Donington in England, having grown up always thinking that Castle Donington was
it Donington, or did it become Download yet?
It had become Download.
It had. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
It had become Download at that point, but it's
still that's amazing.
I'm taking it. So
yeah,
that was cool. And then also Adam Jones from Tool watching us from the side of the stage at the show, and him then really kind of getting into us and inviting us to Tool to a Tool concert, and then it was like he and he really liked us and wanted us to go and tour with Tool, which would have been that
would have been huge. Yeah.
So it just really felt at that point in time there was just a lot of real positivity, a lot of cool things happening. It was just a real nice time, and it just felt it was just really good.
I love that song L'Amour de Truet, or however you say it. I'm not a French guy, so L'Amour de Truet. I don't know, how do you say it?
Yeah,
that's the one that goes da 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 da. Do you remember it? That's it. Yeah. I love that track, man. Might be one of my favorite my favorite MDB tracks.
Beautiful. So that's a very Andy song, that one. So
very, very much so.
So that was, that's a cool kind of example of that. Then to say where then get one song that's totally going, someone's got a real strong idea, go down cool, then yeah, do that. And really cool chords. I remember it. So again, we never played that one live, but
No.
remember.
So I guess I'm gonna tread into dangerous territory perhaps here. What ended up happening there? Can you go into it, or is that not a place you want to go?
Oh, that's totally fine with it, really, because after so many years of, I mean, as I say, we worked together so incredibly well, and super pleased with that. But then at times there'd be some stuff that I'd want to do and bring in, and it didn't necessarily fit with, My Dying Bride style that, when working with a band like that, that's got such a very clearly defined kind of sound, aesthetic.
Direction.
Exactly. And
Right.
that's great. And, it's great to, try and push it in some directions, and which, would do a bit, but then sometimes it's, but it's still got to be, true to its kind of original vision. So, so always, knowing then, it's got to first and foremost be respectful to the band. So then wanting to do something kind of different, and it starts getting difficult to kind of do everything. And so then when Greg asked me to join him doing Vallenfyre, and here was an opportunity to do solos, do a lot of lead work, and which is something I'd wanted. So I brought a bit of, a little bit of lead work into the stuff that I did with My Dying Bride, but there's not scope for that. So so bringing some that bits now and again. I really liked what tasteful little lead bits I did with And I Walk With Them, and also like A Perpetual Funeral. I think these were, nice little, just like tasteful kind of lead bits. But then working with Greg playing guitar for him in Vallenfyre was an opportunity to, just do some ugly guitar playing,
Right.
just thrashing out something, and doing lots of solo and lots of kind of lead stuff.
Did you feel, if I could interrupt just for a sec here, so I don't lose that track? Did you feel a little bit stifled creatively in MDB as far as like what you were allowed to do so far as maybe your lead work? I know, and if I'm asking a question you don't want to answer, you can just say I don't want to answer this. So
No,
I fully respect that, but I do ask tough questions. So I'm wondering if maybe that was it. You saw the opportunity to go with Greg, and as I understand it, you were playing with Vallenfyre and MDB at the same time, simultaneously for a little while.
And so thought that could be kind of cool, with just like, kind of scratching the itch of wanting to do, more solos, and just thrashing out some stuff just for fun, just being a bit wild, and then just like kind of doing that, and then go back to MDB to do MDB properly.
Right.
Do things kind of that way, but it was just very, very difficult to do everything, and that, as I say, not to say stifle an MDB, because was able to bring in a good amount to it, but I think just at that kind of point in time, after what had been 15 years at that point, I think we'd done some great stuff, and then just at that point just very much wanted to go and do something.
You just wanted to try something else.
And it was very different, and just a lot
more. Oh yeah, very
nastier kind of stuff, lots of lead work, and for that brief period of time of trying to do the two together, it was it was difficult. Doing the two at the same time. So it's it's wonderful acting. Being My Dying Bride was such a wonderful period of time, and so proud of all that time, and
Are you on good terms with the guys? I mean, do you speak to them ever?
Absolutely, and that's why I
Okay.
love the relationships that we've got with them now. So
Great.
So Aaron has come to which every Godthrymm gig he's been able to, and obviously he did a guest appearance on the album.
Oh, that's right, he did. Yeah, so I should have known that. I'm sorry.
And Andy came to the very first Godthrymm gig as well, and
oh, that's killer. That's great to hear.
So absolutely, yeah.
And you knew Greg. You knew Greg through all the machinations of knowing the scene guys, and he's known about you. So he came. Did he come and ask you to do the Vallenfyre thing?
So it was because me and Greg have been friends for a great many years before Vallenfyre became a thing, and I even remember at one point as well. Then being we used to meet up. It would be Greg and Scoot and myself and we drink quite a bit, and at times would kind of say about how then you just want to hear more people kind of doing the Frost thing of mixing just to having more slow ugly riffs and more kind of D-beat stuff in there, but in a metal kind of territory, and then say what bands to check out, and again just talking and loving music rather a lot. So Vallenfyre came around because then after Greg's dad sadly died after his battle with prostate cancer, then as a channel, a vehicle for like channeling Greg's grief, he then like writing stuff down, and it ultimately became lyrics, and would write some music, and of course it was a lot kind of angrier and nastier than what he'd be doing with Paradise Lost, so it kind of became its own thing. So when he then asked me if I wanted to come and play guitar on it, and also with Scoot and Adrian, it was just like, wow, absolute honor to do so. I would love to. And it was very personal. It really meant something, because I was then, with Greg, that the very, the night that his dad had died in the day, and then I saw Greg that night as well. So, and been with him in all the lead up to that time. So, we spent a lot of time together back then. So when he was doing, we wanted to kind of, create something out of the grief, then I say simultaneously it was, the honor to be asked, but also like, God, yeah, of course I will. How would I not? We're very close, circle of friends at that point. So then that's how that band then started, did the album, and handful of shows after that first album, and then he was then kind of really inspired to push it further, really. And what was very kind of appealing as well at this point, see, whereas like a be kind of pushing for like contribution into My Dying Bride, and getting stuff in there and working together with this, it was just much more just cool, hands off, it's Greg's baby, just go for it. And I'm just do what I can with it, and just take and then just take the enjoyment out of playing the music, and friends and things. And so there's only a small number of riffs that I ever brought into Vallenfyre. I think there's maybe about 4 maybe in total, which and then out of however many songs and however many riffs on there is, it's a tiny little amount.
Right. I mean, Greg's a kind of a force of nature songwriting too, in a lot of ways, right?
Astonishingly prolific chap. Who really, the amount of songs he's written is incredible.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I mean, he's kind of done it all. Like Gothic is one of the pillars of Gothic doom death metal, and then of course all the Paradise Lost, which uniformly, they're like MDB, their catalog is pretty uniformly great or excellent. And then he does Vallenfyre, and then he does Strigoi, which is the black metal thing. And then and I will say this, Vallenfyre is the one element of your playing I was the least aware of. I knew about the band, but I remember checking them out and going, I don't know if this is for me. And the reason is Greg's kind of channeling a little bit of a crust punk vibe into that. And I never quite got the punk thing. It just never did it for me. I was not a Sex Pistols guy or a New York hardcore guy. So I kind of, that's the one element of your work that I'm not as into, shall we say. And I love Paradise Lost. I love what he did with Nick on the Host album. I love it, man. It's such a killer album. So, it's just one of those things. You can't love everything, and we have our tastes and things like that. But I do notice you get a lot of lead work in there.
And it was that was grand on the first album. Then, Greg did some, I did some, and it was just great. Just together doing stuff, and then afterwards on the subsequent albums, which then we were getting a bit more. That last album was a lot more crust punk, and but then Greg was just doing all the. I recorded all the kind of main guitar parts, and he just did the leads on top. That's what I was doing at the end there, and then his time was very much done, and that's why then really was very keen to move back into the world that know and love. So different bands, different styles of music for different feelings, different times, different points in life, even as well.
Sure. So you get so we get to the present day more or less. In 2017, you decide to launch Godthrymm, and it is a classic doom band. But I will say, and I know that I read this somewhere, but the minute I listened to the albums, I was like, yeah, this guy is, and I don't want to insult you, so please, if it is insulting, you just tell me, fuck you, you're insulting me. I'm cool with that. But I definitely hear a Seattle vibe. I definitely hear an Alice in Chains thing, and we're gonna get into that. In that, the first album I like a lot. This album was my number, and the reason it wasn't higher on my top 23 of 23, I think it was number 22 or 21, was because I didn't get it until very late November, early December. I didn't have a lot of time with it.
I remember you saying,
But this is a killer fucking album. And what I noticed number one over everything is, well, two things. One, I think your vocals took on a whole different, they leveled up and beyond. Your vocals on this, not to say that they're not good on Reflections, they're good. But I feel like I hear you searching for some things like, is this the right place? Is this what I want for this? That's my interpretation. Probably not yours. That's my interpretation.
Oh, that's exactly right.
And I'm just a goof that listens to the stuff and makes judgments. That's all. But what I'm trying to get at is this album, man, it stands apart. Not only in the songwriting, and the production is a lot fatter, more layered, more textural, I guess is what I'm going for. But your vocals are, in my opinion, a lot better. I hope you don't take that the wrong way. I just feel like they're much better.
No, it's great because I mean the whole thing would be vocally first was just really kind of trying to
searching,
find my voice and find exactly what kind of comfortable with doing. And when started doing Godthrymm, I didn't intend to be the singer originally, and that wasn't my idea. There were a couple of different ways I tried to avoid that originally. We had Stoy was going to be the vocalist who was in See His Tear,
Okay.
way back when.
Right.
He'd sung for demo era Solstice, and then See His Tear as well. So he was originally going to be the vocalist, and because it was some old friends jamming together, and then it took a different kind of shape as we got on, and then clearly got a few more ambitions about what we wanted to do musically, and then I ended up singing out of necessity initially because Stoy didn't feel he was ready for recording at that point, and we were very keen just to get on and have something recorded. Tried getting another singer into the band, but that didn't seem to quite go down as well. And then was being told that the vocal bits I was doing were more what should look at doing. But even so, doing the first album was still very much finding kind of a place of what I was going to do. And so and I very clearly on the album as well would do different versions of a song vocally, do something quite clean, and then afterwards just not have the confidence to do it clean, and then would say, right, okay, can I just do that again, but change the level because I'm going to do a Tom Waits impression now, basically.
Well, I definitely hear, if I had to pick a specific vocalist for the first album, I definitely hear some Nick Holmes in there. Early Nick Holmes, very early, like Paradise Lost, or maybe Fire Icon in that era a little bit, because Nick has evolved as he's moved on as well.
Really?
And I would say that's a pretty favorably good comparison. In other words, if someone told me I sounded a little like Nick Holmes, I'd be like, cool. But I hear much more Lane Staley in this new album, and what I hear there also is your cleans are much more confident. They're a lot less. Oh man, I shouldn't say it. You're gonna want to punch me. There's a little less pitchiness to them as on the first album. They're more confident, like you've got the vision here of the melody lines for sure, and you're not trying to figure it out as you're winding through them. So I know if I see you personally, you're gonna be like, I'm gonna punch that fucker, but that's just what I hear, and I really like the first album. I love this album. I love this.
Well, that's just wonderful to hear, and that's just grand. I mean, certainly vocally felt a lot more confident this time around, and part of it as well was part of what made me feel a lot more confident on this album was having Catherine all over the album as well, because just by having.
Yes, thank you for mentioning her. I'm sorry, I would have gotten there, but she is absolutely wonderful and adds such a dimension. And in a weird way, it's kind of Jerry Cantrell and Lane Staley. It's kind of like that thing, right?
It's probably that, yeah. Because I mean, by having her singing just kind of tall in there, just number one, I suppose in some ways made me feel like, okay, yeah, I'm not carrying it vocally on my own. So that already made you feel a bit different in terms of kind of pressure, and things felt a little bit more relaxed. And the other thing, her vocals are just so wonderful as well. It was just like, okay, maybe that'll be a bit more focused than mine too. But so all of this, and then thinking, okay, yeah, we could try and do some harmony stuff together. Then that pushed me again to be seen slightly cleaner. And then the way we were recording this time around is a very, very different approach. And I then tried some different things on the demo phase a lot more, and then just a bit more confident to actually go with cleaner stuff and went with that. But even then, it's not super clean vocals. There's a bit more dirt to it.
Well, you definitely are. You're definitely more confident on this album by far.
But
you
I
just
tell
you hear it.
Thing that it was so. I have zero issue with it whatsoever because I love Alice in Chains and thought they were great and a lot of stuff from that kind of scene back then, but it was just kind of so funny that even from the very first review that I heard of the album, and it was straight away that was there, and it was just a surprise at first because it was just so not conscious, but no issue with it. It's like fine, and maybe on some subconscious level or something, I just don't know, but perfectly happy with it. But
well, and here's the other one. So my favorite song, which is unsurprising, it's not. Well, I don't know that it's my favorite, but it's definitely got the killer riff of the whole album. And which song is that, if you had to guess?
I'm probably go with different tuning, but Devils.
Yes, that riff is so killer. And the very beginning is very Wood. It's da 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 da. It's not exact, but it's there a little bit. That riff is so wicked, dude. Da 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 da. Simple, but super catchy, super effective, super drawing you in. Your vocals are fucking killer on it. And you mentioned Godthrymm, man. She solos on In Perpetuum Eternal. And right. And it's a beautiful track, man. It's very evocative and it's very, I don't know. I'm one of those guys that doesn't have a problem with, oh shit. Am I going to forget the name of it now? Celtic Frost, Into the Pandemonium. It's very Into the Pandemonium, like, in a way, right? And it's beautiful, but it's a little more sparse and more beautiful and less whiny, I guess, is, because Into the Pandemonium can be whiny. I like it, but a lot of people hate it. But that's another influence I hear is a little bit of the Into the Pandemonium vibe in this album that's just kind of there on the periphery, right? And
I love how then, if at some point something's veering off to a different kind of style. So I mean, like that song "Pictures Remain" there, where she's got multiple vocals on it, it's all clean guitars, and some people then say it's almost a bit like kind of shoegaze or something. It's like, well, fine. And
yes, I hear that.
Devils is it's got more of that kind of
driving. It's just riff. That driving power thing.
I'm much happy. I would much rather be compared to like Alice in Chains and that alternative metal side of things, rather that than stoner rock, for instance.
No, but it's not stoner. It's not.
So I'm like, cool, I'm fine with that's cool. But then likewise another song riffing wise, some stuff sounding a bit Crowbar, some stuff is clearly sounding My Dying Bride, but it's gonna. And so
you can't divorce yourself entirely from your history, right?
And so not going to be any restrictions, and that's the kind of big thing.
I got a lot of guys in here saying there's a lot of typo in Godthrymm. That's a great pick too, Johnny. Absolutely some definite typo, and there's nothing wrong with that in my book. And a couple of comments here from some of the guys, like Nick says her vocals make it even more haunting. Great addition to the sound.
Thank you.
Johnny says the female vocals do make Godthrymm stand out. Devil's so damn catchy. And Wade has a great point. I appreciate that she doesn't seem to go too far into the operatic thing. It seems more natural sounding, and I totally agree with that. Yeah.
I'm very keen to kind of avoid, because at first when saying to her about it would be great if she was doing some vocals on more metal songs, and she said, oh, but I don't want to do that whole operatic thing. It's like, great, because I really don't want you to do that anyway. You know, other people do that and they do it great. So
Yeah,
Godthrymm,
I think Mark's trying to audition for that non-open spot. Sorry, Mark. I think that's filled, I believe. They do have a bald. Or is that who you're talking about? You're talking about Chris, I guess, right?
I guess that's Chris.
The extremely handsome bearded bald guitarist. But that could be you, Mark. I mean, if you consider yourself handsome. I don't, but I'm just kidding. Anyway, the funny little thing here was, I was talking about your vocals, and the funny thing is you don't really watch. You probably haven't watched a lot of my material, and why would you? But if you do, you will find I could point you to a number of different things. I sing a lot in my videos. Like if I'm doing a deep dive of a band I love, like for example, the Fates Warning one, you're going to hear me singing a lot of tunes. Am I Ray Alder? No. What's that?
Can you do a good Ray Alder?
I can do a better Ray Alder than I can a John Arch. I don't have that high nasal thing. I'm more a Ray Alder guy by far. I think I sing at least a half a dozen songs on that. You know Gorguts? You know Gorguts, right?
Yeah.
So Kevin, who plays with Kevin Huffnagel, plays with Gorguts. He's my guitar teacher, and I had him on to do the deep dive with me. And I said, listen, man, before we start, you got to know I'm going to sing some of these songs. He's like, okay, I'll deal with it. So sometimes I'm good. But the reason I went into all that is Tim likes to say, at least you sing better than Don Dokken. You're fucking right. I do. Okay. You're fucking right. I do. We'll just move on from there. Yeah, man. Look, it's a great album. Now, I wanted to touch on, it's a wonderful album. And by the way, Profound Lore, wow, might be the sexiest variant that I own. This thing is absolutely gorgeous, man. It is. And I think actually the other one, because it's a double. Here we go. There we go. Yeah, there we go. I think this one has more gold. Yeah. Awesome variant, man. So sexy. That might be my prettiest one that I've got this year. And I buy a lot of cool ones from like Deborah Morty and Van Records. They do great stuff too. But Profound Lore knocked out of the park on that. So that came out in August. Did you do much touring to this point with it?
Not so much so far. We did an album launch show in Leeds. That was great. And with just a handful of fairly local shows with some dear friends and other bands as well. And just really kind of waiting to see what we can do live, where we can go and what we can kind of do with it. One thing that we're very keen to kind of do now is as well do engage a bit more on like the YouTube channel and stuff as well.
That's right. You do have a YouTube channel, which I did not put. I will put the link. I have all the other links like Bandcamp and Profound Lore and your the website, but I forgot about that.
It's just about to get a bit more interesting because we're not out playing as much. But one thing that we are very keen to do, and I've started on already, is a series of cover versions that we're recording that are going to be just kind of exclusively for the YouTube channel. So,
cool.
With a lot of interest, engagement, and reviews from stateside, which is amazing. And as much as I'd love to be over there as much as we can, that's
very expensive. Very expensive.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what we can then do in the meantime is do like this series of videos, for instance. So
do you think there's a good shot? Do you think there's a good shot of doing some of the summer festivals coming up in June, July, like doing mainland Europe for anything, or no? Has anybody approached you?
I've approached a couple of so far, not so many. So but yeah, so just kind of putting it out there, and then we'll see. I've approached a couple, and I don't know. Oh, shall wait and see. So that's what I'm thinking. Then the kind of next thing I'll do, because the main passion anyway as well is just love recording as well. So
did you record this at home or in a proper studio?
So the video series we're doing at home, which is increasingly turning into a bit of a mini studio. Really.
Well, that's what I meant. Was this done in a proper studio though?
That's actually a bit of a combination. So
okay.
So some stuff were So we did a lot of work with Andy Hawkins at the Nave Studio in Leeds, which is a converted chapel. So it's got an incredible live room. So we did some stuff there, some stuff at home, and he mixed all of it there. So
and where did he come from? I don't recognize his name, but it's somebody you've known for quite a while, right? He did other bands, right?
So he was for a long time. He was a live sound engineer out touring, and then he wanted to do much more studio based stuff to then be at home a lot more. And he's just amazing. I'm just blown away. Because at first, knew the name and knew the name of the studio and wanted to check it out. So we recorded the Chasms single there with him, and immediately thought, wow, this is a very good person to be working with. And so went on to do the album, and just he's just fantastic. I mean, as you've heard, the production from the first album, second album is just night and day.
Yeah, different. It really is. It's really, really very different. Yes,
incredibly different.
Huge improvement. I wanted to ask you though, just as an aside, because he's a buddy of mine, but I am assuming you know Greg Chandler, right?
Greg Chandler. I know loads of folk who've recorded with him. I'm not entirely sure if I've never recorded with him,
right?
But I'm just trying to think if we've spent any time together. What band did he play in as well?
He's got Esoteric.
Esoteric, of course.
Yeah. Which I think you two guys on a tour would be a really fucking cool tour. Like, even if it's just UK, they're a little bit more, build, crescendo, crash. You're more, a little bit more, maybe go for the throat a little bit more, but you still have that wonderful atmospherics too.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, because his production work is great. It's cool, and loads of friends who've worked with him a bunch of times in the past, and of course, Esoteric. Yeah, so
I'm gonna put you guys in touch.
That would be cool.
I'm gonna put you guys in touch because Greg and I are in regular contact. He's I had him on for almost 5 hours, so you're lucky. You're not. I'm not abducting you like I did him. It was 2 different meetings, but wonderful, wonderful guy. Just absolutely. It's funny. I think back to when I first grabbed. I want to say the first album I got by them was The Subconscious Disillusion into the Continuum, and then I went back to Despondency and Epistemological and all that stuff. And I thought to myself, man, this guy's got to be like a serial killer. He's got to be some kind of escaped mental patient. There's something wrong with this guy, not realizing. So flash forward almost 20 years later, roughly, I get to meet him, and he's the most lovely, wonderful, beautiful guy. And you're like, just funny how you can conjure up strange images in your head about what the music or the sounds sound like to you and what you think about those people. He's just like the coolest fucking guy ever, like you. And it's just funny. And I say this every time. I feel very blessed, very fortunate for people like yourself, everybody that I get to meet in this wacky thing that I'm doing here. because 99% of the time, almost always, the guys in metal and the girls too, but the guys predominantly. We know it's a sausage fest in metal for the most part. Just some of the most beautiful, really great people, and it's a real pleasure. So that's just my little aside there. But so this is the second part of, I believe, a trilogy, right? You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So the trilogy idea came around with well, I hadn't been conceived before recording Distortions. It really just kind of the idea came as we're working on the album, because the first album, Reflections, had been no bones about it, just reconnecting with the past, and then really being fine with that, and just like, yeah, okay, it's just a bit of a love letter back to that whole 90s scene, and
Sure.
and just totally cool with that, and like even on the song Among the Exalted, and just not messing around with, just like, all right, yeah, it sounds very Paradise Lost, yeah, so it does, don't care. It's cool.
Yeah.
So just love that a bit. So Reflections, as a title, was very much kind of reflecting that as well, by saying it really is a look to the past. So Distortions, whilst then it is quoting the chorus of Devils as well, also then has the parallels of distortions of distorted guitar, the center of everything that we kind of do, but also then, whereas like seeing how the album was just kind of pushing things further, the contrast is turned right up, the heavy's heavier, the melodic is way more melodic, and
right.
There's layered harmonies. But there's going to be even more. So it's like Distortions. It's taking the template of the past, and that style of music and the love for that music, but twisting it, distorting it, and making it. How far can we push this in?
Right.
What we're doing right now, which then just kind of led on to, okay, the next phase then being projections. What to do for the future? How can we move forward and
move the goalpost? You're right. Mm-hmm.
And what else can we incorporate into the sound? Getting a bit, and it's being ambitious, and like Celtic Frost. That sometimes ambition can be.
Can bite you in the ass. Cold Lake. I like Cold Lake, so but fuck everybody. I actually like that album. I don't have a problem with it, but
it's incredibly inspiring to want to evolve and move, and so likewise, it's great to look at and celebrate the past. Love that totally. But yeah, and so this little phase has just been really kind of pushing what we're doing further, and then next it's like, okay, can we bring in some different kind of tones, some different kind of scales, different modes, just different, still grounded in what we're doing, but we can push this a little kind of further. What do we do next? So we're in the studio next month, actually recording a single as well.
And you already have a title, if I'm not wrong, right? You already have a title, right? Or am I wrong?
For the album or the single?
For the album, the third album. Projections, right. Now, I wanted to, before you continue, I just wanted to go back for a sec to Reflections. You brought up the Paradise Lost song. Which one was it?
Well, so on Reflections, one of our songs called Among the Exalted.
Okay. So I have to ask, because my favorite song on the album is The Grand Reclamation, because it's very schizophrenic, and it does all kind of, that song stands out to the rest of the songs for me. And you get that real chuggy bit at the end where you're just really fucking riffing out, almost thrashing at the end, right? I was like, that doesn't sound like Paradise Lost to me. I thought that's what you said. I'm like, that's but
yeah, no, that was different. That song, Grand Reclamation, was very much the start of the band, really, because that was where once we did that song, it was like, okay, right, that stands slightly, differently, with the, I'd say, the stripped down bass and drums of the verses and the vocal over the top, and then gets heavier again. Sure, that's just, the template of Black Sabbath and everything. Yeah, okay, it is, but I think it's very much got its own tone and style, because vocally it's a hard one to do, and quite strange even at that early stage, where I was happy enough to then be belting out something quite so full voice.
Yes.
And,
you were really like
background.
You were really gutting it out for sure on that one. Yeah.
So that was the point where I was like, okay, yeah, this is and it wasn't just some old mates having a mess around on some old riffs that feel different. So that song probably does stand out kind of a little bit, because some of the stuff on there is more of a mixed bag. Some stuff is, very much harks back to that old Peaceville 3 kind of sound.
And We Are the Dead is kind of the obvious like standout as far as what you would think of like a radio track. I guess it's not really, you guys don't really do radio tracks because they're 6 minutes long or 7 minutes long for the most part. But that would be the one that has the most standout sort of memorable, hummable chorus. But that's another thing that I found with both albums, in particular the new one, that there's a lot of pretty good earworm moments throughout this, which can be hard to do when you're doing a 12-minute song or an 8-minute song or let's be honest, Dream Theater did it really well, but it took them a long time to figure it out. And it's not an easy thing. That's why most pop songs are 3 minutes long. They get in, they get out.
And you've got to try and figure out as well, appropriate length of songs at times. I mean, there's some longer stuff on the album. As Titans is a long song, but hell, there's a lot in that song.
No, it's a killer track. That's probably my second favorite. Yeah.
And there's a lot in that song, but just very conscious to try and ensure that nothing's outstaying its welcome. Now, it's a long song, but there's a lot of riffs in it. It's not like sometimes you can get a long song that's not got that many riffs, but
it's all the same things, just repeated, a couple bars separate, right?
And just thinking, okay, we've got a pattern where, bringing in a riff, let it do it for 4 before the vocals come in, and then you've got to do so many. And, then that album I was on it, the Solstice one, New Dark Age, that album needs so much editing, really. I mean, there is some very flabby songwriting on there. There's like really, kind of bloated song structures.
I agree.
Don't need to be anywhere near as long as they need to be. Whereas that album could really do with some serious editing, some real, just make things more kind of concise and to the point. And certainly working with Greg so closely and seeing him work and stuff, he's very good at writing songs that are indeed concise and
figuring out where you cut it at.
So some real good crap, because it's in some ways it's incredibly easy to have a song be very bloated and long. It takes a bit more work and skill to actually then know how to edit.
Yes. And if you think about it, with Paradise Lost, they don't have a whole lot of songs that are super duper long. I mean, they're usually in that 4 to 6 minute. I'm even trying to think, is there any songs that are like 8 or 9? I don't think there is.
Not so long. I mean, Beneath Broken Earth is probably the longest thing they've done for.
And that's like 8, 7.5, 8.
That's what I was wondering. Is it even 8?
It might not be. Somebody'd have to look. I'm good, but I'm not that good. But
even their earliest stuff, there was nothing that was crazy long.
No.
And I think that just then demonstrates some real kind of efficientness and the deftness of songwriting. So I think that's important to try and do. But if the song does end up being longer, it's with real legit kind of. I mean, I hope it comes across that way. But yeah, when I do a longer song, it's because there are certain movements that really want to. Really want to kind of shift with and
explore, and you want to, yeah, exactly, yeah. It's funny, Hamish. It's funny. I'm a prog nerd dude, so I love, the Rush to 2112. Although that's a bunch of movements, it's not one song technically. But you get something like Dream Theater, like Home, or 12-minute song, or you get what's that one? Scenes from a Memory, or something like that, where it's 35 minutes. And back in the day, I was like, this is the shit, man. The longer, the better, I don't go there much anymore. Like, for example, not to shit on Mike Portnoy, but Mike loves some of those really long-ass songs. For example, Transatlantic, 90-minute song. It's like, you're losing me after when you just take so many circuitous routes. Start something different. Make something different that's encapsulated and concise. And so again, As Titans is it's a great tune, and it works in its context, but you don't always have to. Longer isn't always better.
No, longer is certainly not always was better. And if it's longer because you're wanting to introduce some actual, musical shift within, and it's not just to kind of just stay on a particular kind of point. If you've actually got some kind of movement planned, and be that harmonic movement or key, or just whatever to make it kind of interesting. Where, as I say, one thing that again symptomatic on like the new Dark Age album, where then there's the song that just kind of goes on for just forever, and then you've got other than a riff that's been well and truly set up and played as well, but then it's like, okay, all right, so we'll do a key change, but it's just shifting the entire riff up 3 frets,
right?
And then then just shift it down 1 for the next. And it's like it takes so long to get through that whole kind of idea of right, so maybe start with a root a third and then drop it down a certain tone. Okay, cool. But by the time you've gone through all of that, it's you've added another couple of minutes onto the song or something.
Yeah. Nick brought up Fearless Sky off Medusa. He says that's a little over 8. There you go. I knew somebody would know, but now, for example, one thing that you mentioned earlier, we'll harken back because it's relative to what we're talking about now. The Stoner Doom crew, right? The Stoner Doom bands, Dope Smoker. That's kind of the same riff for 42 minutes, and some people dig that. There is sort of, maybe if you're in that zone where you're into just the kind of drone of the same thing over and over, slowly shifting, I get it. But if I'm going to do that, I'm probably going to listen to like William Basinski's Disintegration Loops, or maybe a Lustmord piece where it's drifting ambient, where there's that kind of textural thing. I'm probably not going to do it where I just listen to the same guitar riffs kind of slightly morphing, where it just goes on and on and on. That I will say one caveat to that. I do love Yob. Mike does something special with it's probably more to his vocals and the way he creates that kind of stuff. But you see what I mean? You mentioned Stoner Doom.
Yob, though, there's the what's the album I absolutely love? And
Clearing the Path to Ascend.
No. Oh no, which is great.
Atma.
No.
Great Cessation.
Ah,
that album's fucking killer. Yeah.
Just absolutely amazing. And also then the track itself, Great Cessation as well.
That's like 28 minutes long. It's
a long song, but
it moves, and it
moves.
It breathes. Yeah. It actually breathes and kind of is like a living organism that shifts and kind of, And I mean, Johnny brings up Bell Witch. Bell Witch can kind of pull it off too a little bit. So that's not, so we don't want to come off as being like, oh, that stuff sucks. But I mean,
no. A lot of musicality and all of that. And people can be into different things, and some people may, I totally get it. Someone may love, drone and tone, and that's what they're into, and that's fine. But then when we're talking about like Great Cessation, a track like that, then no, this is actually some serious musicality that's going on here. It's not just a drone. It's not just hitting something open and playing. In some ways, I'm sure would say that. Okay, yeah, you're approaching the amp like an instrument as well.
Very good point.
Fine, great, but again, that's something that's probably just much more visceral in the in a performance art kind of nature. But if we're going down a long kind of song route, at least for myself, then musicality and actually
actually Wade brings up a great point. Michael from Opeth, Michael Ockenfeld, really, really great songwriter, and he always had an ability to take pieces and parts of songs that maybe unto themselves were not that amazing, but when he would bring them together into these longer songs. But you notice he's not really doing that anymore. He doesn't, 7-8 minutes is kind of the thing. He's not doing the 14, 15, 28-minute, Black Rose Immortal, which I do think suffers from editing issues. But so we're getting far astray here. I want to get back to you. So you got the YouTube channel, which I will link here. And like I said, I've got Profound Lore, I've got the Godthrymm, all your pertinent stuff. Does Godthrymm have a Bandcamp itself, or is it Profound Lore's?
Godthrymm got a Bandcamp itself, but I mean, ultimately everything on it is it just kind of links to Profound.
Oh, it does.
Because so we do have our own page, but given that everything of worth is on Profound Lore anyway,
so it comes out of them distribution wise.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got all that stuff there. And you're working on elevating the profile of the YouTube channel, which I will put in there. I'll edit that in. What I guess where I wanted to see, like, okay, so you're working on projections. You said you start next month, I guess, doing pre-production and tracking.
So we're going to release a single in the interim. So we will have a new single out in the summer, which is going to be another standalone single, like what Chasms was beforehand. So that's what we're into the studio doing now, and that is a song that is very big, very melodic, big, just like big. It's like huge chords, massive sound, and just slight. It goes through an interesting kind of almost major key kind of modality of being quite grand and triumphant, and then starts getting really quite ugly towards the end, and has got just much more double bass and a bit more chromatic riffs than what we've done on Distortions. So again, it's pushing things away and just let's kind of move a bit more. So we'll do that. We'll see how that comes out, and we'll so that'll be before the album proper. So work on the album's going on. I've got lots of songs written, but intend to keep on writing. And when it comes down to recording the album, it's going to be a case of having to really pick
the best,
gonna work the best as an album, because
you're gonna use the same producer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Same in studio, and
you'd like to get some touring. You'd like to get some touring in, I would imagine, if possible.
I would love to. Would love to get doing some festivals and just get out and doing this. Would love for Catherine to.
Well, I was going to ask though. So a tricky thing there with both of you two being on tour. You have kids, right?
We do, but now that they're they get a little bit we're not older, but they get much more to a kind of an age where then we can dot off a bit, and we're quite lucky that we've got good family support and things like
I
that.
was going to say, is that when you call up grandma and say, hey, grandma, I'm going on tour. I need you for 2 weeks to cover my ass.
The both of which, and then say, like, okay, remember when you got me into music? Yeah,
this is what you signed up for.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Sorry,
because she needs to have some, the experience. I'd love her to have some experience of that because it's just great, and I really want to see. And I'd see things do well as much then, for Profound Law as well, because, I don't take it lightly that, Chris and Profound Law's belief in what I've been doing is really quite amazing. And I just, thank, Profound Law so much for,
another
supporting us with this.
Did you have any feelers out at all, or did they contact you at all about, Albert at Decibel?
It was
like Decibel Fest or anything, or because I know James at Decibel Fest is a huge fan of yours, and also I was wondering about Maryland Death Fest. Was that not did you hear from them at all, or no?
No, and it's kind of funny after spending so many years in Vallenfyre and My Dying Bride beforehand. Strangely a little
quiet.
kind of touch with the
okay
or of the machinations of getting onto stuff and doing it. So I mean, we've got the Godthrymm.com website and contact email kind of on there, and really, yeah, as I say.
But if I'm not wrong, did you have professional management for? Like, I know Paradise Lost was with Andy, what's his name from Northern Productions, right?
Yeah.
Andy Farrow, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, and it was MDB, same deal or no?
MDB were at separate booking agent, and so everything was like kind of via there. So, but again, these are established bands with big history and stuff as well. Whereas this is still very much new band.
Like you said, it's grassroots, right? You're starting over kind of a weird way.
And so I'm quite the approach of how we go about that. I don't know. I mean, I don't. That's why then learning a lot more about doing YouTube stuff and engagement with people in these kind of different ways, which does appeal to me as well, because I like the idea of doing videos and music that's kind of like exclusively for that world, which I think sounds really cool. So I look forward to these covers starting to come out, because we've picked some interesting stuff. So
you're not gonna give me a sneak peek on that. You're gonna keep it close to the vest.
Oh no, it's right. Well, I mean, I'll put a tiny little clip up on just like on a Facebook page or something. So the first song that'll be out will be it's a Pentangle cover.
Oh, okay, man.
No Love Is Sorrow.
So, you went way back to your origin story, right? Very cool.
Thing. So I love the idea of taking that song and interpreting it in this
a metal context. Yeah.
So it's we're with some of the layered guitars, like want to do huge crushing kind of chords, and
nice.
The vocals of myself and Catherine. So it just is a great way to kick off. So and then just waiting to just get the final couple of tracks nailed on it, and then we'll start releasing these, and then frequency.
I have a question for you about doing a cover like that. Do you have to? How do you go about doing that as far as publishing or not publish? Do you have to pay? Is it like a fee, a small fee to do the cover, or no?
No, then with something like this, you then just that's why it's going to be like kind of exclusive for the YouTube channel, because then you'll get then the copyright claim of the song from the copyright owners.
Right.
So then, should your plays result in like a monetized kind of video, then it would go
to
that
them.
way.
Yeah.
So this for us is just purely for a degree of promotion, but ultimately as a then just our own kind of satisfaction and enjoyment of just doing music still, and just paying tribute to music that we love, and then just kind of sharing some slightly different genres to each other a bit, really.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, that's a great thing about most metalheads are pretty open generally. I mean, there's that small niche that's like, if it's not, I often hear people say, well, it's not, it doesn't sound like the last album. It's like, well, if it did sound like the last album, you bitched it sounds like the last album. I mean, that's how some guys are. You know what I mean? It's like the Opeth example. It's like, oh, he doesn't do death metal vocals anymore. Oh God, it's like, come on, man, for real. Like, then don't listen to him ever again. You know what I mean? It's like that whole thing just makes me chuckle. It's just ridiculous. But I have a couple more quickies for you to get you out of here in like 10 minutes because I know you probably got to get to your life here. I wanted to ask you, what are your biggest guitar hero influences for your personal style?
So would go with I'm gonna say Paul Kossoff.
Oh, right.
Being one of the first, because it was just such a kind of a soulful, emotive player, and that just I kind of really stuck with that. And then actually, for probably not the obvious reason, but James Hetfield. Now, but there also credit needs to go to Cliff Burton as well for this, and it's specifically because of my introduction to layered guitar harmonies in heavy metal in a particular style. So basically going to Justice for All album, and then To Live Is To Die. So drop out in the middle, and you've got the clean guitar section, all that, and then the harmony swells come in, and there's like multiple layers of guitars there where we got harmonized of doing these volume swells, and there's so many layers on there, and it's just beautiful, and it's like a guitar orchestration kind of thing. And then the drums come in, and then you got and then James doing a lead, the lead that comes in there, I think. And then there's multiple harmonized lead guitars in there, and it's just huge and crunchy. It's beautiful. It's very orchestral.
Mm-hmm.
And that piece of music was staggeringly inspirational for me. Just like, wow, it's orchestral. It's just huge, and it's just sounds so sad and so beautiful, and just being so inspired to try and do something in that realm and work in that way. So James Hetfield, and yes, of course, he is the right hand.
I was going to say, you can't deny the right hand. It's the best right hand in the business, right?
Just absolutely. And he's just such an absolute legend. But the main reason why he's super influential for me is just that. And I know, and then want to loving Metallica, want to read and hear so much about them, and knowing how Cliff Burton was bringing in the concepts of harmonies, and how to riffs that written by the other guys, but just like, okay, but yeah, you could harmonize so much over the top,
for sure.
So like from the main the opening riff of Ride the Lightning onwards, and having that the harmony stuff in there. So yeah, that in a big way. Guitarist I always really love his style is Jay Mascis. as well.
Oh, from Dinosaur Jr.
Yeah.
Wow, really? Okay,
Um,
it's a
and
surprise.
I think and he's got a particular lead style. You can really tell it's him, and he just does a nice kind of thing of where, in the minors you're just kind of hovering around like you kind of the B and the G strings, and so you're always in and around thirds and fifths and over
Mm-hmm.
big fuzzy chords, and that's just and real cool guitar tones, and but just a beautiful bathos in his songwriting as well, where there's like sadness in there, but a degree of hope as well. And like at times, and it's like, I'm not saying things aren't difficult, they are. And it just always resonated with me a bit more. It was like feeling like you're trying to live through something and not just die from
Interesting.
something,
Yeah, that's interesting.
So,
I'm not real familiar with Dinosaur Jr. I know who they are, but I never really like kind of focused on. They were a little too alternative weird for me at that point in time.
yeah, but there's a
So
time I can say them at times, but then you can go out and listen to something that's just much more just big fuzzy.
I'll have to go check it out. I'll have to check some
Not
out.
quite the same as like what I'm saying, but I mean some of the stuff around where you've been, I just think that there's there's really something that's playing out I really like, and gotta say Greg McIntosh as well, of course, because
Yeah.
again, talk about a guitarist where you can absolutely tell it's them, and I think that's really important. If there's a guitarist where you can really tell it's them playing Brian May,
Oh, hell yeah.
hey, it's just like amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and so Greg absolutely has that as well, where it's just a very very distinct style of guitar playing.
Did you ever get into like the shred stuff much in the the shrapnel era stuff at all, like the Ingves and the
But my dad had quite a lot of that stuff, so it was
okay.
kind of weird. Like my dad would have vinyls of like Vinnie Moore,
Yeah.
Tony McAlpine,
Oh, I
and
love Tony, man.
so so he had a lot of that stuff. And Ingve, it was the album with You Don't Remember I'll Never Forget and Queen Is in Love.
The third one. What's it called? Trilogy. Yeah.
So I listened to that quite a bit, and I liked that album quite a bit because there was also some quite recognizable good songs in it as well. So
it's a weird thing. I went through that phase as a guitar player where all those shrapnel guys were coming out from like 86 through early 90s, and the Satches and the Vais and the Ingves and the Tony McAlpines and the Michael B. Firkins and the Greg Howells and all those guys. And don't get me wrong, amazing players, all of them. Okay. But the older I got, the more I kind of went back to my number one god of guitars, Alex Lifeson. Rush is my favorite band, will always be my favorite band. Richie Blackmore, you can see up there in the
brilliant.
It's up in there we go, up in the corner there. Richie Black, Jim Matheos, an amazing guitar player and an amazing songwriter that a lot of people don't really get just how incredible he is as a guitarist and songwriter. But guys like Frank Marino is one of my favorite guitar players. Jerry Cantrell, the guys that maybe aren't as flashy as an Ingve or a Vai or those guys, but they just have a soul. They have a voice that you can hear.
Soul, voice, and then to do with that, I mean, mentioning Vai there and that whole guitar world scene as I kind of viewed at that point, because it was very much magazine. You always had the magazines in the house and stuff like that. And Vai, I mean, I would maintain his absolute best work was, began and ended with the Eat 'em and Smile album with Dave Lee Roth.
Good. Yeah, good point. Yeah, a lot of great shit on there.
Because he then had pockets in great songs in which to kind of shine. And then, but you check it out, it's just like, oh, it's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, man. Like stuff like Ladies' Night in Buffalo, which is not even.
Buffalo. That solo is just amazing, so incredible.
Yeah.
But working within the confines of a song as well, which is really really cool. And that's why then when my dad gets stuff like Passion Warfare and
that's a pretty killer album. That's a pretty killer album right there, man. I haven't kept up after that much, but I mean, I have a couple of them. But you know, the same thing with Satriani, who I think is a little more. Satriani is a little more listenable for me because he writes guitar solos that are almost like vocal harmonies in a lot of ways.
He does, yeah, but then the backing sometimes can just be a little, just quite simplistic.
Mundane, yeah.
So that's why, like Surfing the Alien and stuff like that. The backing to all is it's a vehicle for the guitar
for
playing
the solos,
which is cool. But that's why of that whole world, I mean, yeah, Eamon Smile, just wow, wow.
I have to laugh. The guys in the chat that know me well, they're all like, has Rush made an appearance yet? I almost got through most. I did mention Rush was my second concert, but I didn't. Almost every video I do, I go off on a Rush tangent for a few minutes. So I won't do that to you. Everybody knows, but they're joking around saying, "Oh, there he is. He's going off on his Rush thing, finally making an appearance." So, and Nick says, like predicting water, like water is wet. That it is kind of predictable, but hey. The last thing I want to touch on, because I do really first want to say thank you very much for the amount of time that you gave me today. And we did get through the rough part in the earlier part of the video, and it's held up thankfully well since then. I want to talk a little bit of gear with you because I have a lot of music nerds that are guitar players here, and they probably want to see some of your axes. Now, you had a Les Paul. I didn't know whether it was a Les Paul or an Epiphone or
this particular one. Just noodling away on is just it is an Epiphone because it was a guitar that belonged to a very dear friend of mine who sadly no longer with us. Before
you jump in on that, Hamish, we should mention your new guitar player.
Oh yeah, Chris McLaughlin.
Yeah, why don't you talk about Chris real quick?
Yeah, so Chris from Green Saber, first met him back in the 90s when he was playing in a band called Desolate, who supported Sears Tear at a gig we did together in about 94, I think it was.
Okay.
So that would be, our first introductions, and I even lent him my guitar. He broke a string, I think, Charvel, no backup guitar, and he broke a string. So I think we're in near enough the same tuning, and if not the same tuning, it was close anyway. And then so I lent my guitar, and
when did he join? When did he officially join?
Small number of weeks. That month, he started rehearsing with us, I think, December. So,
is he a local guy to you or no?
Localish.
He's good buddies with this guy right here, Johnny Mac from Rock and Metal Plus. They're good buddies. I think Mark, you're friends with Chris as well too. I've tried to get him on a couple of my. I do this thing called a Desert Island series where it's like your top 10 favorite thrash albums, your top 10 death metal albums, blah, blah, blah. And we tried to have him on a couple of times, and always the scheduling hasn't worked out too good. But we'll get him on. I'm gonna draft you into one of those. I can feel it. I'm gonna pull you in on one of those. But yeah, so congrats to Chris. Go ahead, pull some more axes out. I feel naked without carrying one myself right now. So.
Yeah, good. This is one I used in MDB quite a lot.
Okay.
Also cropped up in a Vallenfyre video as well. It's just a Japanese Jackson. I used a lot of Jacksons in my Damn Ride, mostly Rhodes models. But I did some quite a bit. It's pretty extreme.
Cool inlays on there. Yeah, the fire inlays. Did you have them put on, or was it like that?
Oh, it's like this is a DK2 FF model because I've changed the pickups out from stock, but otherwise, the fretboard is exactly as it came with. So yeah, you can see this in the "I Cannot Be Loved" video, and in the My Dear Bride, that is, and Vallenfyre Cathedrals of Dread video is in there too. So yeah, they did quite a bit.
Did you come by an old Jackson that you had to part with, but just got back recently? What was the story on that, real quick?
Yeah, so that was one of the first Jacksons I got. Black gold hardware through neck one. Beautiful guitar with an amazing neck pickup tone, and used that live with My Dying Bride a lot, and recorded that quite a lot as well. But then just went through a period of time when money was very tight.
Yeah.
Childcare really expensive, and cost of living, which it was. And then,
wait a minute, Hamish, are you telling me that you weren't a millionaire playing with My Dying Bride? Are you kidding me?
it's incredible as it seems. It's
hard to believe. I know. I mean, that's a joke. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just making fun of people that think that everybody that's a metal musician is a millionaire. It's like hardly.
It would be so nice, but and so then I had a friend out in Belgium who was wanted to buy the guitar, but on the caveat it did said that that he'd that when in position to buy it back could do so. So that was great. So he had it for a while. In fact, Scoop bought this one for a while, and the same kind of idea.
Oh, that's awesome.
Where then, when in position to be able to buy it back, then, can do when, childcare was not so brutal and things are different. So that was.
I had a 2004 Paul Reed Smith 10 top custom 22. I paid a lot of money for that thing, and then I got into a situation where lost a job, just my life was in a real bad place. Had to sell it. I bet you I sold it for like almost half of what I paid for it, which was just insanely painful. I wish I could find that guy. I wish I would have kept his address or whatever. I was in too much of a relationship breaking up and having to find a new place to live and all that stuff. It was a pretty bad time. I would give just about anything to have that guitar back. But my very first guitar, this is the one I really want back. My first electric, 1985 Gibson Explorer, candy apple red with the white pickguard like the edge. The very first year of the Kaler trem system. I could stick a medium jazz pick underneath that action and go like this, and it would stay there. And I could yank that thing the whole way up and take it the whole way down for dive bombs. Never went out of tune. I sold it. I think I bought it for this is 1985 now. I think I bought it for $900 or $1,200. I can't remember which. I sold it for $400 to make rent when I was living with a bunch of dudes in college because I wasn't making any money with. I
gotta live.
I try not to think about those days because it's painful. Those two guitars right there.
But it's how to get through stuff, and that's the thing. Got to
you got to survive.
Got to do what you can at the times, and so as much as I was fortunate enough to get the black and gold one back and got this one back as well, there was a Lightning Sky finished one that I sold. I won't be able to get that one back. Don't know where that is. Yeah. Sell that.
We become attached to these things like they're our children, right? They're almost like our children in a weird way. It's like, I don't want to give this one away. I'll give that one away. I don't like that kid as much, but I'll,
That was the thing. So then there's, so one guitar that I certainly could not sell. Let me pull it out here. Because I did actually get a custom shop Jackson in my MGB.
Jackson, okay.
So so Jackson custom shop, and
that's pretty, man.
So that's
Seymour Duncan.
Yes, Seymour Duncan Black Winter
Which
set at the moment.
which sets are they? What are they?
Black Winter.
Okay.
The
Is that
Black Winter.
who is that yours proprietary or no?
No. So when it first had it built, it had a Seymour Duncan JB in the bridge,
Okay.
and a DiMarzio subscription in the neck. But Brian McDonald was recently recommending the Black Winter set, so I got those in here.
Man, that's sexy. I like that. Is that a gloss finish or a satin?
So it's gloss with satin bevels.
Satin bevels. Okay, yeah, that's wicked, man.
And then the inlay, you can see on here,
nice.
is then from a tattoo that
from your tattoo.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
So, which was in a bit of my Dan Bride artwork as well. But so, because I could, this is such a one of a kind, could, never sell this one, or things would have to be pretty bad if I was going to sell that.
I don't know what I have in this, but I got to look, but I got Seymour Duncan's in there too. I don't know what they are though. I forget. This is my baby right here, my Cadillac.
Cadillac, nice.
Yeah, I love Cadillacs. There's just most people hate that body style, but I think it's the coolest body style ever. So, more, yeah. What amps do you predominantly use? Marshall, I guess. Gather.
PV. I love PV.
What are you using? 6505.
6505 on distortions a lot, and but I've also got a couple of different variations of a 6505. I've got a couple of 3120 heads as well, and a couple of old PV 2x12 combos as well. So
wow, no kidding.
I've got a so accidentally ended up with a bit of a PV collection. So clearly I like PVs.
That's interesting. That's for a guy. I would have honestly expected you to be doing like rectos or maybe 5150s or something like that, high gain, but you're going with, and I've played a 6505, and man, if you're in the room with one of those things, they will blast your fucking balls off you. I mean, no shit.
They're just they're great. They really, really are. The rectifiers, I've never really got on with them so much because I can get like a great huge kind of rhythm tone out of them, but just find that the leads kind of disappear a little bit.
Yeah,
so you've got to do a lot. I know they're notorious for how dialing them in can be quite a thing. But I've never had the luxury of enough time to spend with one to then get something I'm super happy with. So,
what kind of effects do you use when you go out? Or you don't seem to be a big effects guy?
Not hugely. I've got a sort of just like a bit of a lead boost pedal. It's just like a bit of an envelope sweep,
like a screamer, an Ibanez screamer, or what?
No, so rather than like a boost that way, it's just more of a tone shaping kind of thing. So you almost get like a bit of a wah pedal, but left in a fixed position.
Okay, yeah, like that mid wah, yeah.
So just like that in a kind of a pedal format, and also then just like spot of chorus, which it's cool for some lead stuff. Get some cool custom pedals built by Kink pedals in Melbourne, Australia.
Okay.
And then if at any point I'm not using my own amps as well, then I've also then got a Kink distortion pedal as well, and I used it's one of their a bit of fuzz on a couple of tracks, a couple of layers on the album as well, which again built by very
on distortions. Was it all amps, all heads and amps, no modeling?
No, all very much heads, amps, orange, UK built cabinets, and mics, loud, and then I'm thinking, and then like that. Certainly, you'll hear on distortions Devils, the song itself. Okay, it sounds well. It's like kind of extra tracks coming in and out with like a bit of fuzz in the background that would they just front end into Piva heads.
Do you mess around with modeling at all for like demos?
Oh yeah, I got
Plugins.
No, never plugins. Never tried them.
I just got this. It's like it's the Quad Cortex, the Neural DSP. It's like trying to figure out like how to fly a rocket ship when you've never ever done anything like that.
A lot of very simple stuff for a good long while, but still got old Zoom 9030.
Oh, the Zoom.
Yeah.
My first multi-effects was a Zoom. I gotta be honest with you, I never could dial that thing in and figure out to make it sound good. Like, do you remember the days? You probably do. Do you remember the days when the first Line 6 came out, the pod, the kidney bean? I still have that somewhere. My kid has it, I think. And I thought when I got it, I was like, man, this is the most awesome tone. And then you go back now and you plug it into like a combo. It's like fucking garbage. You're like, what is this?
They're handy things. They're useful bits of kit. And
back in the day, it was what you got.
Moved. But those rack-mounted Line 6s are pretty good.
They are. That's the deal. That's the real deal. Yeah. In fact, I don't know if you know the band. Do you remember the late 80s, 90s band Zebra?
Oh, no, I don't know that.
Remember Who's Behind the Door? That song, Who's Behind the Door? Or Tell Me What You Want. Tell me what you want. Bow, down, 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 down. That's a great chromatic riff right there. Anyway, Zebra, I think their debut album came out in 83, and it was huge, massive. And then they kind of tailed off. But I had Randy on, the guitar player. His whole entire tone, his whole entire live rig is that rack-mounted pod. That's it. He doesn't even use amps. Like, really, man? Like, so have you been tempted to mess with like a Kemper or a Fractal or Quad?
I've played through Greg's Kemper. I've used Kemper beforehand, and I don't know. It would be nice to have one. Maybe have some use, but I think after so many years of like kind of hanging on to some bits of gear and looking for certain bits of gear, I've kind of going down a particular route of
it's your identity. It's your identity.
Particular stuff now because I really kind of want to. So I enjoy whenever I got the opportunity to use proper my amp of choice in my cabinet of choice. I've got an old vintage JCM 800 4x12 cab. That's not a guitar cab. It's actually a bass guitar cab. So it's not a 1960 cab. It's 1935. So it's different speaker. So it's the 44 cone bass speakers in it, and that's a wonderful sounding cab. So at any point in time, I actually get to use my proper amps or my proper cabs, and I love that sound. It's just great. So anything else at times can do, like there's convenience versions and try different ways of doing that over time. And if I was going to fly and do a show, and I've got the gear I'd use for it. If I was traveling light for bus type show, I'd use for that. And if I was going full on, use every heavy bit of gear, then that would be awesome too.
Do you remember any nightmare scenarios where you went somewhere and you weren't able to carry your own gear and you had backline that you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this shit? Do you have a memory of any shows like that where you just you requested certain backline and then you get it and it's just, you can't get your sound?
Well, I certainly remember one time playing in Finland with my damn bride, and half of our gear didn't arrive, and so had to just be using, I'm borrowing some stuff there, and thinking like, be a bit kind of panicky, big show, but of course the gear I ended up using was just like JCM 900 head and a borrowed tube screamer, and had a great sound. Didn't really
still got it.
Didn't have a clean sound, but then just kind of made sure that it was the set didn't involve any clean tones, so that was okay. And then for the rest of it, I don't know. It's funny when a lot of time away with Vallenfyre, then I was carrying my kind of pedal board in like a pelly case hand luggage, and it was just quite kind of more protective of that, even more so even than the guitar. So spent it was kind of getting a bit risky with there because we did so much of the Vallenfyre touring with no backup guitar or anything because we were having to travel.
Man.
So
Crossing, you're just crossing your fingers, going, please don't break a string, please don't, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Hey, last question, because I want to get you out of here, man. I've kept you all day long, and or all night long for you. Do you remember what's the weirdest when you got into like touring bands? So I guess Solstice wasn't probably really that. You toured, but you didn't do like major touring. When you did major touring with MDB or Vallenfyre, what's the weirdest gig you ever played? Like, what's the one gig that stands out to you as like, what the hell was that? Do you have anything like that at all?
Not so much. Maybe not so much. I'm trying to think of any particularly weird gigs. Gigs less so, as in, sometimes there'd be some, kind of interesting lineups where, sometimes be on a festival bill with some, a more varied kind of lineup rather than just a total metal festival, and sometimes that would feel a bit odd and like feel maybe kind of slightly out of sorts, but nothing too weird, nothing kind of too bad. But certainly, I remember the weirdest, as far as weird goes, the weirdest night was a night that we weren't playing with. It was touring with Vallenfyre, and we got into Essen in Germany for the night before we were playing the next day, and so we went out to go and we'd looked online already and saw where there was going to be a curry restaurant. So great, we'll go out and have a bite to eat. Right. So and then just have a bit of an evening in this nice German town. So we went out as we were eating our meal. Then a girl just kind of went past the window, dropped her pants, and then defecated. Just
what?
The window, and
right there in front of the restaurant.
Yeah, just right. Yeah, in front of the window. It was then staff got to go and chase her off, and we're like, okay, that's kind of weird. Let's go into town to go get another drink, and then we stop off at to need to get some cash out, and then it's one of the kind of cash machines behind a door. We got to kind of swipe in, so opening in there, then finding a guy who was doing Class A drugs there, and like to try and kind of get around into
like shooting up. You mean shooting up?
God. This is just it's like, okay, this is pretty rough. We then find a bar where, and it was decorated in a very strange kind of way. Instead of like seats, it had a lot of like kind of hospital equipment, like commodes and hospital trolleys and things like that. I'm like, okay, this is an unusual evening. Look out the window and then see a naked guy just walking down the street.
What the fuck?
And this is all in the same evening.
Oh, and you guys must have thought you like stepped into a Twilight Zone episode.
This is
wow.
And then we go in, and then the bar that we finish up in, you find a cool bar that's playing, loud music and stuff, and have a few drinks. Okay, this is pretty cool. And then see at the end of the bar, there's a pole on the bar.
I think I see what's coming.
And there was a troupe of I think they were Irish dancers. So then these guys are getting up and doing some pole dancing, and were clearly very good dancers. So okay, this has ended up really, really cool. But then there was a guy with them. I don't know whether he was like maybe a teacher or something, but he kind of had a bit of a an Andy Warhol kind of look with the big.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
And so anyway, then this guy kind of then gets up, and it's almost like he's in a whole suit with Velcro down the sides, and then just like takes his suit off, and he's just these little kind of like gold lame speedo,
a thong or a speedo, yeah.
Pole dancing, and of course by this point, and then just all right, yep.
What year was this?
Oh, so that's gonna be about let me think, 2014, 2014, around there. Splinters.
I think you just convinced me never to go to Essen, Germany. I think that's what you did.
We had such a wonderful night. It was amazing.
Bizarro. Listen, I wanted to read a couple quick comments. Wade says this guy's a legend, still making awesome new music. It's been great to hear from him. Mark says, great hearing about Hamish's musical endeavors, legend and great guest, and what a nice bloke. I concur. And Nick says, yeah, I think getting Hamish on for some collabs would be fun as hell. You've been marked, sir. You've been marked. Let's see. Loser Battalion met Hamish at MDF playing with Vallenfyre. He's the nicest guy. I can see that. I want to thank everybody for being here today. I want to thank Hamish for 3 hours of torture. Hamish, I want you to hang on for one moment if you would. Everybody, real quick, tomorrow, 11 a.m., Stephen Wilson and Tim Bowness of No Man. Of course, you know Stephen Wilson from, most of you should know Stephen Wilson from Porcupine Tree. We're not going to get into Porcupine Tree, though. We're going to be just talking about the No Man box set that just came out, maybe a little bit of their solo plans, because both of them have solo careers that are going on. So Stephen Wilson tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time. That would be 4 o'clock p.m. Greenwich Meridian. Also on Wednesday, I've got Vlad from Necro Wretch. He probably has a last name, but I don't know who it is. I got to look it up. I got to set that up yet. And then on Sunday, I've got Chris and Mike from Skeletal Remains coming on at 2 in the afternoon. So lots happening here. And also Eric and I are doing the Jethro Tull thing at, I think, 8 or 9 p.m. on Sunday night. So that's what's doing on the channel, and lots more cool guests coming next week, but I'm not ready to reveal all those just yet. Some really cool stuff. So Hamish, hang on one sec. Thanks to everybody who was here. Hamish, anything you want to, any final words?
Thank you so much for inviting me for a chat, and thank you for everyone coming and checking out what we've been chatting about this evening. And thanks for checking out Godthrymm, and thanks for just the spot of time, and all the best wishes.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that we all wish you the best of luck. You've brought us all a lot of really awesome metal that we've all enjoyed, whether it be from MDB or Godthrymm or Vallenfyre or any of the things that you've done, Solstice. So we're pulling for you. Hopefully you get over here and we get to meet at some point in time. And again, Tim, you weren't here earlier. If you would have been, you would have known I used your catchphrase. I think I'm sold on it, dude. I'm so sold on it, I can't remember it. That's me being old. But the catchphrase is gas masks and hand grenades, where metal music melts your mind. See you guys. Hang on, Hamish.